Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 19th City Council meeting. Trish, can you please call the roll?
Alderman Santee.
Here.
Alderman Glab.
Here.
Alderman McClatchy.
Here.
Alderwoman Bassey. Here. Alderman Strack.
Here.
Alderman Cook.
Here.
Alderwoman Miller. Here.
Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda is a proclamation given to Ryan Harding, who served as a council member since December 2019 when he was appointed. So I'm going to come out and read a proclamation. I'd ask that Ryan Harding please step forward. So Ryan and his beautiful wife Jackie and the 4 kids are here with us this evening. I just want to take a second and acknowledge the amount of effort that goes in for all these council members and elected officials. It's not always easy, and we know with 4 kids and they're growing fast, it's obviously important that we get people engaged and get involved, and I appreciate what Ryan has done. Ryan Harding had his appointment to Ward 4, Alderman, confirmed on December 16, 2019, and sworn in on January 6, 2020. Whereas Ryan Harding has concluded 3.5 years as Alderman of Ward 6, 4 years? 4? We'll go 4. We go 5 if you want. 4 years? 4 years, whereas he has served the council with purpose, dedication, devotion, and integrity, and has acted in all matters before the council with the welfare of the city upmost in mind. Whereas he has served with dedication, devotion, and integrity, and looked back with pride on his contributions and accomplishments while serving of the city council. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the city council of the city of McHenry go on record as recognizing the many contributions and dedications of Ryan Harding and expressing its appreciation and gratitude on behalf of the citizens of McHenry. Thanks, Mayor. Come on, Jay.
It's a good thing I wore my glasses tonight. I can see everybody. Smile.
Do you have the pen on that?
It's a appreciate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You can stay if you want.
Take care, Ryan. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ryan.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the public comment. At this point, this is for items that are not on the agenda this evening. So if there's items that are on this agenda, you'll have the opportunity to public speak or give your public comment at that time. Is there anyone from the audience that would like to make a public comment at this point? All right, see none? Thank you very much. Moving on to consent agenda items 6A through 6H. Any council members wanting to pull items? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, I'd like B and D pulled, please.
Alderman Cook?
I'm sorry, no.
You're good, okay. Any others? No? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Just the consent.
6A through H.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You're good?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. At this time, I'm looking for an approval for motion for 6A, 6C, and 6E through H. Alderman McClatchy?
Thank you, Mayor. I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus B and D.
Thank you. Second, Alderman Santee?
Second motion.
Thank you. Discussion on these items by council? Alderman Glab?
Yeah, I just want to thank the chief. I think A is very commendable, the fact that we're finally going to look at a lot more safety over there down Front Royal by the park.
Any other comments, questions? All right. Go
Are we
ahead.
discussing
Alderman
B now?
Massey. No, not yet. Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Santi?
Yes.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Next item on the agenda was 6B, pulled by Alderman Glab, is ordinance amending Title 9-4B-1, subsection F of the McHenry Municipal Code in relation to wastewater rates, increasing the sewer rate from $4.20 per 1,000 gallons to $4.37 per 1,000 gallons, and 104.6 per 1,000 gallons to 4.22 per 1,000 gallons. Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, just basically, I looked at this, I did have a discussion with Troy, as far as, the rates and the reasoning for the increase in the sewer rates. Yes, basically, we do need to upgrade, the sewer rates, for the amount that's, in the budget. Being, certain items such as chemicals and everything else have extremely increased in costs. However, looking at the breakdown, I also noticed that we're talking, I think it was $85,000 that we were short on the sewer, so we're taking it up 4% to make that up. However, the water rates need to come down a little because we're looking at almost $150,000 more than what we are over the budget, and I think we need to balance that out. I think we're not here to bank money at this point in time, and I just think we need to adjust one down as we adjust the other one up. And I just don't feel comfortable just doing one and not both of them together. And I would ask that we could, after discussion, possibly delay this till the next meeting. I'd like to hear what other council members have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other council? Alderwoman Bassey?
Director Lynch, I have a couple of questions for you. Okay, could you tell me what is the expected increased revenue?
So we're looking at about 120,000 for sewer
Okay, annually.
annually.
Okay, thank you. And where will that money be allocated to?
So like Alderman Glab stated, it's for operating expenses, and it's mostly due to chemical increases in price.
Okay, is there any other line item on the budget that would benefit from this?
It would be anything operational. So, I mean, there are some increases to personnel costs, obviously, but the bulk of it is materials and supplies.
Okay. So it's safe to say that it's increasing chemicals and personnel costs?
Correct.
Thank you. Okay, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Alderman Santi, go ahead.
Carolyn, if we push this, do you still have time to get these rates into the system where you're able to get the correct, what you've budgeted and estimates, you have enough time to move this and still be able to go through your next annual
Yep.
your
Yeah, we'll be
timeframe?
good. August 1st is when we implement these new rates, so the next meeting would be fine.
You've got enough time if we do propose it in July?
Yep.
Thank you.
Alderman Cook? Alderman
Raising the water. Are we good on that? I understand the septic, all right, the sewer, I'm sorry. But the water, does that have to be raised?
So no, we weren't suggesting a water rate increase right now, and actually when Alderman Glad brought up decreasing the water rate, we can do that for this year to balance it out with the increase in sewer.
I would like that.
All right.
Would that have a
Alderman-
net effect? Oh,
Go ahead.
would that have a net effect of zero?
It would on residents who have water and sewer.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Miller?
Carolyn, what's the average use
Is there an average?
I would say 6,000. Is that close, Troy?
I would say
6 to
that's on the high end. I would say that's for like a full household. 4,500 is probably on the low end of medium, I would say.
So if I'm looking at the calculations on page 9 of our packet, and what I've learned in my existence here is that you don't ask for an increase if you're not projecting or anticipating a need. So on page 9 of the packet, if the average consumption is 4,500, call it 5,000, we're really looking at an increase of 85 cents if we approved both factors. Is that correct?
If we increase sewer only, that it would increase the 17 cents per 1,000 gallons. But if we decrease water, it would be a net zero, which that's not in this packet.
So could you look at page 9?
Yes, I'm on page.
So I'm at the 5,000 line?
The 5,000 is 85 cents, yep.
Yeah, for both water and sewer, correct?
Correct, right now, yes, with an increase.
With the proposed increases?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Alderman Strack?
Troy, if I may, could you tell me, and I know this is a rough number for you to throw out, but just an average water main break cost?
Bear with me a second.
Nothing special.
Circling back, Carolyn's answer was a little bit closer than mine. I screw up, or mess up bi-monthly versus monthly sometimes in my mind, so her number was a little bit closer. I would say $5,000.
And on average, how many of those do we have in a year?
15 to 20.
15 to 20 at 5,000 apiece average. Could be 10, could be 2. No more questions, thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting, July 17th. And I'd also like to bring up the fact that with this, that maybe we also bring up the fact that we do not, we have a reserve in the general fund, a 4-month reserve, but I don't think we have a policy as far as any kind of reserve on water rates. I think Troy brought up a good point that when we have a downturn as severe as we did several years back in the economy, then people were having a hard time paying their water bills. We need that operational money, to continue on without any borrowing from the general fund or anything else. So I think we just need a policy for that. I think that would be just responsible as far as the money in the sewer and water funds. And again, we're not worried about the sewer because we have for capital improvements over there. We bank money for all the impact fees that we collect. So, but I would like to take and vote on both the increase in the sewer and the water reduction, if possible, at the next meeting, and that's why I made that motion. Thank you.
So just to clarify, so you want it to balance out, so the increase in sewer to be balanced out by whatever the reduction in water is brought back for council at the next meeting?
It's not so much that I'm worried about balancing them. I just want to make sure that our numbers are as close as possible. The sewer was done, naturally we're a couple dollars over, and it's almost impossible to be right on the money when you're talking, that many households. So all I'm looking for is that what we review this every year, and as much as we go up when we have to, sometimes there's times when maybe we just need to go down. And I know government, in most people's minds, that doesn't happen, but it should happen here. So that's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Sandy?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. All right, so there's a tabling on the floor right now by 2 council members. Any other discussion before we go to a vote? Alderman Glenn?
I'm sorry?
Alderman Santee, sorry. I said the wrong name, sorry.
Alderman Glab brought up in one of his last statements, this is something that is looked at every year, so just understand that rates could go up, rates could possibly go down also. And it's the way we've been, and I don't know, Director Lynch or Director Strange, just, it's something that we put into effect probably about 3 or 4 years ago, doing the rates this way. Do you recall when we first started doing this? Always?
No.
Well, the last major change in structure would have been after the rate study in 2014 through 2015.
Okay, so around 16 or 17 is when we made a change. Okay, well, my point is that what, just kind of digging further into Alderman Glab's statement is that, he's correct in regards to, yes, we do have an adjustment here. We're going to come back and vote on it. Well, if it passes, come back and vote on it. But it's something that is done and reviewed on an annual basis. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Clerk, please call the roll.
This is a vote on the motion to postpone until next meeting.
Alderman Glab?
Yes.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Stratt?
No.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
No.
Thank you, Council. We'll be bringing that back to the next council meeting for discussion. Next item on the agenda is 6D, waive the competitive bidding process and accept the low quote from AMB Roofing and Sheet Metal in the amount of $350,850 for the re-roofing of Hickory Creek Barn. Director Hobson?
I guess I would entertain any questions and see where we go from there on this particular item. And just treat it that way at this point.
Sounds good. Thank you. Alderman McClatchy? Go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you, Mayor. My question is, why so much? $350,000 for a roof? I mean, that's crazy.
It's that huge barn on McCollum Lake Road.
I know.
And this is a cheaper product than a cedar shake. It's a big roof. That's the best way I can describe it. This is and the 350 is what we estimated it to be at, was $350,000. So going into this, we knew that it was going to be about this much for that roof. So I'm happy that we actually got 3 that were, or 2 that were real close to that 350 amount.
What were some of the lower bids?
So that's one of the things on this, I just want to make sure that we're clear, is I had requested to waive bids because for the most part it's a simple re-roof, I guess is the way that we looked at it in-house. In that case, we didn't put bid spec, we didn't hire an engineer and put bid specs together. We contacted 3, what we felt were 3 qualified local firms to provide prices to us. Those 3 prices came in at $375,000 from Metal Master, $355,000 from KM Construction, and $350,850 from AMB Roofing. Since we felt they were all qualified firms, I will tell you straight up that my personal opinion is always nice to invest with local companies and have them doing the work. When your neighbors are doing it, there's some accountability as somebody that's going to fly in and be out of town. That's just, I guess that's my opinion and my thought process, and that's why it's reflected in this supplement in the manner in which it is.
Thank you.
Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why I pulled this is I like to go out for bids, especially on bigger projects like this. Granted, we got three prices, but they're all local. Doesn't necessarily mean I don't like the idea that we have local contractors working for us. However, the more people that are in the bidding war, the sharper the price for the city. I have nothing against this company. I have my roofer that did my roof. I've known him for years, since I worked in the contractor department in Menards. He is considered one of the best knowledgeable roofers in the state. And he has nothing but good to say about this contractor. Nothing, other than good about him. But there are extenuating circumstances that I kind of question about this. For one, it's not a simple re-roof. How much plywood do we have up there?
Well, when they take the cedar shakes off, we'll have to, there'll be some that we have to replace, but we're not planning on re-sheeting the whole structure.
Yeah, well, what I'm getting at is if it was done right in the first place, when you have cedar shakes, you don't use plywood underneath it, because cedar shakes will take and rot, underneath plywood.
Right.
So most of it should have been one by planks, with about a 2.5-inch gap in between.
Correct.
You're not gonna put the steel on that. You're
That's
gonna
what-
be
yes.
putting,
That's what it will go on.
have we checked with the manufacturer as far as that?
Again, all three of these people were, contractors were on-site, inspected it, provided quotes based exactly on that. Ross, do you have something to add to that?
I just think we need to look at it a little bit closer. Putting the metal roof on top of planks, you know, when you've got one-bys, and one-bys are 3/4 inch versus plywood being a little narrower, but when you've got one-bys, and they're not scissored together, they're not as strong as a piece of plywood would be, even though the plywood might be thinner. And I don't want to see where you're going to see sags in the roof here and there on those one-bys, you know, over time. A solid roof with all plywood is what I think would be a little bit more secure for a steel-type roof like that. And so I think we ought to investigate a little bit more as far as that, and I still feel that we should go out for bid out completely, rather than just garnishing up a couple quotes. Thank you.
Alderman Cook? If we were to accept these bids, or whatever you want, who's overseeing the project? I mean, do we have a city engineer that's gonna be watching these guys?
Well, city staff oversees the project. We have a buildings department. Ross and his department was something they would review.
Well,
as
I
well.
mean, they're gonna be here every day, make sure every every board is okay, you know? I mean,
No.
I understand that you're not, I'm not trying to nitpick.
Yeah.
My thing is that do the job right the first time and not have any repairs later on, okay? So, that's my whole thing in a nutshell, is I want somebody supervising, just like you have with the roads. You got, you know, engineers out there watching the roads and making sure that the right material is being used. Is the city willing to do that?
Well,
Be
in
a
no
city
project,
engineer?
virtually no project has somebody on site every day, all the time. Even at Miller Point, and it's a $2 million construction project, our engineer comes out once a week, once every 2 weeks sometimes, depending on the construction, what's happening. So you don't have, the idea is you select a contractor that you don't have to handhold, that you, and that, I think that's part of my logic, is to pick 3 people that we trust, people that are part of our community, and that we're looking them in the eye on a day-to-day basis. They do business with our neighbors. I want people we trust. And you would, and I'm saying that you would get that same thing in a bid process, because they're going to be required to submit, people that we have to check with, just on previous projects. And so that is still there in either case. In either case, whether we bid it or we don't bid it, there's not gonna be an engineer on site every day saying, all right, this board needs to be pulled, this one doesn't. You hire somebody you trust to do that.
Correct. I just wanted inspections to make sure, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind paying the price, I'm sorry, it's not mine. I don't mind the city paying the price as long as it's done right and it's inspected properly. I mean, like I said, you know, that's a lot of money, and I know it's a big roof, okay? So, I want it done right the first time.
Me too.
Okay.
Director Palarek.
Thank you.
Oh, Alderman Santee first?
No, just to make sure, I mean, every roof in town has to be inspected and is permitted, and I guess this does go to Director Palarek, that there's, I mean, maybe you can explain it in regards to, you know, how we permit them, and then we're out there, there's certain steps that they have to pass before they can move on to the next step of the roofing, correct?
Correct. So just because this is a city project does not mean that it is not required to get a permit. It goes through the same processes in the building department that your house would go through or any business in town. Our city staff is out there conducting multiple inspections, you know, throughout the entire process, making sure that it meets building code. To Alderman Glab's point, with the one-by, yes, cedar shake is typically installed on one by for ventilation purposes. In this case, we will make certain that the manufacturer is approving the installation of this on the one by. So that's part of the review process, that's part of the inspection process. I'm certain that these contractors that proposed these bids to us have reached out to those manufacturers of the steel roof and will be in compliance, so. But we will check it,
Thank you, Russ. Alderman Glenn?
Yeah, there is a little bit of a difference, and that's the fact that, if it was my place, I'm gonna take and get a permit, you're gonna come out and inspect it at the certain periods of time. But I'm gonna be the owner, and as an owner, I'm gonna be watching them every single day. And so I think somebody from the city needs to watch it every single day, because this is a big expense. Bill, do you know what the square footage of this, of the roof is? Total square footage?
17,500 square feet.
17,500 square feet?
Yes.
Okay. And we don't know what's underneath the shingles, or the shakes rather, as far as, whether they're all planks or whether they're, plywood or
It's
what?
planks, it's not plywood.
I'm sorry?
It's planks, it's not
It's all
not
planks.
plywood, it's not a sheeted roof. It's
Because
meant-
I
it's
just
meant
kind
to
of
breathe.
wondered, in the proposal, they're talking about replacement of plywood at $75 a sheet.
Depending on, like, it could be the eave, it could be, depending on where we're at, you know, I think in each one of them, that same number appeared of, cover your behind a little bit to say, all right, if we need to replace sheeting, or if we need to replace wood, period, what's the price?
Right. Thank you.
Hey, Bill, how long
Yep.
is this project? How long will it take them to finish the roof on this?
I would bet it takes a month for them to finish this project.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Alderman Bassi?
Carolyn, is this money in the budget?
Yes, it's already budgeted.
In the parks budget?
General fund budget.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Glab?
Yeah. Are there overruns in the budget?
I'm sorry, what was that? Our overruns?
Overrun?
You never really plan for overruns, you hope it hits the budgeted number.
Because if the manufacturer came back and said you needed plywood on there and you had to put plywood on, you're looking at somewhere around the way that contract is written, an additional $41,000 to put plywood up there. So, are we 100% sure that we don't need to put plywood up there, or what? I mean, you know, plywood goes right now, three-quarter plywood, I think, sells for under $30 a sheet. And with the labor and everything else, and of course profits for the builder, you're looking at their charge of $75 a sheet, which is kind of the industry standard. They're not gouging. I mean, that's what most roofers are charging right now. But again, if we had to go to all plywood, we'd be looking at $41,000 extra. So,
The only thing that I'll hang my hat on is all three were out there, and each of the quotes are attached for review, and none of them says they need to resheet the whole building, and this is what they do for.
But you can't tell me for sure that the manufacturer will not require this plywood.
I cannot, but the people that install it on a daily
Right.
basis feel pretty
That's why
confident about it.
those are questions that should be answered before we take and move forward, I feel, you know. And I'd really like to see this go out for a total bid anyway at that kind of money.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Strack?
Director Hobson, if we go out to bid, what's the additional cost on engineering? Or should I direct this at Director Strange?
Troy might have a better guess than myself, but my guess is, you know, I'd probably put it in the $5,000 range.
Director Strange?
Well, as engineers, we always tend to estimate a little more conservatively, but what this actually brings to discussion kind of an interesting topic in that these projects that are not necessarily engineering projects, it is a challenge even for staff to decide whether or not to hire an engineer, to hire an architect, and put that expense out there versus doing a little bit more of a self-managed bidding process, whether we prepare a contract proposal ourselves or secure quotes. You know, the risk involved in the contract helps you decide how much you want to spend on the engineering side, both in the design and construction. So a typical number for a complex infrastructure project is 10 for design. I don't consider this as complex as that, so 10 to 20.
Thank you. So we're going to increase the cost if we wait. We're going to increase the cost by $10,000 to go out to bid at a minimum. And all three roofing contractors have come in, stated that we don't need to resheet. I'm sure all three of those roofing contractors are not going to hang their businesses on having to do that, and it's not in their quote. I feel we should just move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
How long, what, are we talking a month to get the extra bids in?
So
Why do we have to even deal with engineering? Don't these, like you said, you're expert at these roofers coming in there and they could just looking at it. What's an engineer gonna do? I mean, he's gonna go in there and say, yeah, okay, you map out something? What's the problem with having, 15 different roofers coming in and looking at it and having a bid war,
Well, I didn't recommend an engineer. I was speaking about the procurement process, putting together a valid bid package. Who does that? And somebody with expertise to put together just that proposal, that package, whether they're an engineer or not, that takes a certain amount of expertise.
If you're going to go to bid, you're going to need a package. So you're hiring an engineer.
Or an architect or a project manager.
So let's say we approve this tonight, okay, and it comes back that they need plywood. We come back for a budget amendment, and we're done. I don't see the problem. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve 6D as presented. Alderman Strack?
So moved.
Thank you. Second? Alderman Santee?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion by City Council? Open up to the public for a public comment. Is there anyone from the public that would like to make a public comment at this point? Sure. If you could please press the middle button until it turns red. There you go. You're a little tall. There you go. Thank you.
Hi. Good afternoon. My name is Victor Wiersbo with KM Construction. So we were part of the bidding process, and we went out there and to Andy Glab's point, we talked to the manufacturer, and you don't have to put plywood on top in order to comply with the warranty. But the reason why I'm here today is because on June 5th, we were approached, the city contacted us and, wanted to prepare us for this project because scheduling is important for the current tenant that's going to be there because of the hay that's going to be going in. So when we met with the city, we went over the whole scope of work, and then on June 5th, we were told to prepare for scheduling because we would be the recommended contractor, KM Construction. Afterwards, we found out, for today's agenda that our estimate was undercut by about $5,000 by a different contractor. And so that was to our surprise. We were prepping our production team pending this approval by council to start production. Obviously, it being a 3 to 4 week project, there's a lot of preparation that needs to be done for something like this. So I felt a little bit upset in the matter that we had that we were undercut and we weren't able to revise our estimate. So kind of to that point, our estimate could be done for about $340,000, which is $10,000 less than the other estimate. And we're able to offer double the amount of workmanship guarantee. So the other contractor provided a 5-year workmanship guarantee. We're able to do a 10-year. We've been in business for 24 years here in McHenry, so we're a local McHenry company. And we would just ask the city council to review our estimate that we have. There's no changes to the scope of work, it's just the price. So we're able to save the taxpayer of McHenry, an extra $10,000 in the scope with no changes. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to make a public comment? See none? Any questions, comments by council? Alderman Glab, go ahead.
Yeah, well, again, we're looking at possibility of saving the city another $10,000. Ethically, I don't know where I would stand on this. Again, I don't know the entire history on all of this. It just kind of brought to council. And that's why I feel that we should go to bid, and once the bids are in, they're sealed bids, and if he can do it for 10,000 less, there might even be somebody out there that can do it for 15 less. I don't know.
Alderman Santee?
Did I raise my hand?
No. I saw you hitting the button.
So, KM is here. Are the other two roofers here?
Anyone from A and B? No.
Because we could do a bidding war, maybe get it down to 250. But I don't think that's the way we run business here. I mean, we have this proposal in front of us. I understand that we have, it wasn't, we didn't go through a bid process, but we got 3 bids. These 3 numbers are very close to each other, and they're all 3 good local contractors. And, in my line of business, if I can bring in 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 4 in regards to what I bid on, I'm a happy person. But I mean, it is what it is. These are bids that are here. Let's review them. And we have a permit processing. We have a department that reviews this. We got to be doing 100 roofs a year. Or correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know about hundreds or dozens even failures are there because they're checked out. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Alderman Miller?
So in my world, if we're going to allow one bidder to modify, we need to let all bidders modify. So if we are going to consider KM's altered offer, I think it would be right to go back to the other 2 and ask for their best as well. I think it's the right thing to do.
Okay. Alderman Glenn?
We wouldn't have this discussion much if, again, all proposals are negotiable. This is not a bid. This is a proposal. And, again, they're negotiable. So, like Alderwoman Miller said, give everybody a chance to sharpen their pencil. Either that or just go up for bid and let everybody that wants to bid on this sharpen their pencil and send it out. And I don't know. I mean, how tough is it to put a bidding package together? You've got all the other information that you gave to all these contractors already. So there isn't that much more information that you have to get put together. So, like I said, I think either you negotiate the price down to where the sharpest pencil wins, or else take it out for bid.
Alderman Miller?
So being a farm girl, the word hay is important because you cut your first cutting, you get that in the barn, and the last thing you want done is it rained on. Because when it's rained, it gets hot, and when it gets hot, it's combustible. So in my mind, as that conversation was coming from Director Hobson, my concern is timing and the essence of timing, that I would like to see this moved faster than a bid package, 47 bids, we delay it another month. That first cutting generally comes in July to get that first cut in the barn, and this barn is currently daylight, correct?
Yes, it is.
So it's leaking. And as a farmer, I wouldn't put green hay in a leaking barn. So you lose a crop, and now it's at a bigger expense at the end of the day. So I feel comfortable looking at these three as our options, giving them an opportunity, and making this decision quickly.
So, David, I have a question. Can we somehow approve this for a dollar amount to where then, a maximum of $345,000, give them 1 week to come back for a bid and award it with council's approval without having to come back on July 17th and wait that long?
You can, so long as you're open with everybody that it's not a competitive bid process. It's like Andy said, it's a proposal. They're all negotiable, and the city council has decided to go back out to the three people, tell them what three and so forth. These are your numbers that were received, and we have 1 week to receive revised proposals, and we're not going to award more than whatever the number is. Something like that, is that what you're saying? You may end up with nothing at that. That's like saying a competitive bid, not more than 345, and everyone comes in north of that, well, you have zero.
Well, we got one at 340.
Well, we don't know what we have because he hasn't submitted.
Right.
Right?
But yeah, no, I get it.
You're playing a game I haven't played before.
So do we do a maximum of this dollar amount where we
You
have?
can do whatever you want. I'm just saying you need to be open with the three people that you're talking to so they don't think it's a competitive bid process and they know exactly what the rules of the game are that you're playing. So long as you're open with all three equally, I think you're good.
Okay. Ma'am, you can step up to the podium. Can you state your name and address?
Bridget Barong. I am the tenant at Hickory Creek Farm. Alderwoman Miller, thank you so much for coming out and saying you're a farm girl, because don't mind my appearance. I literally just left the hay mow, and you guys are all welcome to come help me stack hay into the roof that definitely needs to be replaced. We're working on that. I know you guys are doing such great, discussions about it, but time is a factor in this. I went in as a tenant last year praying and hoping to God that spontaneous combustion did not happen with 21 horses in that barn. Seeing a barn fire is the worst thing in the world. Hearing those horses cry is horrible. We need to act now because this barn is beautiful. So please, take it in consideration. Yes, there's great companies that you lean on your neighbor. I have our neighbor across the street from us mowing our hay, baling it for us. My 7-year-old's stacking it right now. My 13-year-old is pushing it down because that's what we do. We depend on the hay. So please, just think about it and move quick, because that cedar shake roof is going to go up in flames. And I don't know if you guys know this, but there is a wonderful firework display right next door. I wonder who puts that on. It's really a great show. You should come out and watch it. And it was amazing to know that the fire department sat in our driveway to make sure that no hot embers came over, because those cedar shake shingles are very, very badly damaged. That's all I got.
Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Alderman Gleb.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem of, again, making that motion for tonight. Again, we're down to 340. With that 340 number, and negotiate with all three contractors, let's say for the next 7 days or whatever, to finalize it. And the only other thing is maybe we mention it to all the contractors that it's important for the area that they work with the tenants there, that they use that part of the roof where they store the hay before any other area, to protect the hay from the water, because the whole barn isn't full of hay. We've got to make sure that the area to where the hay is stacked is the first area that they work on the roof.
The other thing you could do in combination with Alderman Glab's suggestion is you could authorize the staff to make that award, because I think everybody here understands what's going on and the intent of the city council, so you don't have to wait for the next meeting.
Correct. Right. Yep, that's what I'm saying. That was Alderman Strack.
Director Hobson, is the three quotes that we have, the three contractors, are we looking at apples to apples material?
I feel that we are.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and reviewing all three of those, yes.
so as long as the material and the product and the timing and all of that are the same, are we asking for the low bid to be approved of the three? Is that what we're looking for? Because that also comes into consideration. If we're gonna look at all three and go back to all three, if we're really looking at apples to apples, if everybody can do it on the same timeline, because we know we have a timeline issue, is it low bid, or is it who can complete the job in the right timing with the right material?
The only caveat that I will say is the price per hour outside. If they do find sheeting that needs to happen, KM was more than AMB. The material is all about the same. Again, it's not a huge difference, and so I'm certainly more than comfortable with what's being proposed in going back to those vendors. But I couldn't agree more that timing is of an essence on this project.
But the staff needs direction. Is it
Yeah.
low bid or their discretion on the
Right.
three?
That's my concern. I want to make sure we're giving staff the right direction.
Alderman Santi, go ahead.
Two things. It's got to be the low bid, and it was brought up 7 days, so the staff will approve this next Monday at 5 p.m., noon, whatever that time frame is. So they have to have their numbers in before then. And, I mean, that's the way I would be comfortable with it. Low bid, staff approves it. Done out the door in 7 days.
And the job timing as well.
Well, okay, the job timing. And that's what I have to say on that. And the other comment I have is that now we've got a roofer sitting in the audience who basically is now in a rock and a hard place. Because they gave us a number.
Yeah, you have to
They're
make sure
public record.
You have to, he's the only one you're talking to. He needs to be comfortable with us using his number, otherwise you need to pretend he wasn't here. It's not right.
Exactly.
So,
I would say you pretend he wasn't here.
yeah, so
And
the
we go
number's
back to them, and
350.
here's-
The number is not gonna be higher than 350. We are not paying more
I would say
than-
use this 350,000 mark.
outside the plywood issue.
Yep. That way, because this is a number that's out there, so,
Are you good with that? Since you're sitting here?
all right? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. So there's a motion on the floor. Where are we sitting right now with this thing?
No motion yet.
So it's withdrawal?
We have to withdraw.
We have to we have to
Is there a motion on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta withdraw.
Okay.
Yeah. So the easy way to do that is if the first and the second both withdraw, are we good?
Alderman Strack?
I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll withdraw the second.
Okay.
All right. All right, now, how do you want this motion to read? You gotta earn your money tonight.
Motion to
Attorney
authorize-
McCardle? Yes.
Motion to authorize the city staff through the city administrator's office. Motion to authorize the city staff through the city administrator's office to provide sufficient information to the three bidders on the Hickory Creek Barn project to provide new quotes by next Monday at 5 p.m. with bids not more than $350,000 with any plywood sheeting, extra information provided, and the staff to use their discretion to award to the low bidder, lowest responsible bidder.
Do we wanna make the number $350,850?
If you want to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so it's $350,850, which is the bid that we have, low bid at this time. All right, I'm looking for a motion. Alderman Strack?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, Alderman Santi?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Discussion by city council?
And I would recommend that the way you have this discussion with all three contractors is all at once. One conference call, explain it to everybody, answer all their questions, so everybody's on the same wavelength, or have a meeting, one of the two.
So are you handling this as just total negotiations back and forth, or are you just taking bids from those three?
bids from
Final
those
bids from
three.
those
As soon as
three.
there- when the meeting ends, we take the bids. If there's another meeting, fine, but if there's no meeting, no other discussion.
Okay, so in other words, you're asking, staff to have a meeting with all three of them. They all give a final price after the meeting, and then it's done.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Quick question, will these
Yes.
be sealed bids?
That's a good question.
Or will,
Yeah.
Those proposals.
Well, right, but with
Okay.
the allegations that are flying around, they
Yeah.
should
Let's
seal
just
their
seal the
bid,
bids.
and they shouldn't be open until, what time on Monday? 5's too late. You
Let's
guys
do
are
noon,
like going
let's do
home?
noon, sealed bid at noon on
Noon
Monday.
on Monday?
The 26th.
Noon
And then
on
you
Monday
can
is the
open 'em up.
motion, sealed bids.
And provide those, to the deputy clerk. That way, like, all of our official stuff goes to the deputy clerk.
Right.
Let's do that.
perfect.
So once again, all three companies would need to be here at noon on the June 26th, and Monty will be present to open the sealed bids. Okay? And all that information will be shared.
All that'll be to explain to the bidders.
Do you want
Yep.
an amendment on the motion?
Oh, I think Monty's got it. Everybody clear on the motion as we've been, okay, we're good.
And
Okay.
staff will contact all
Sorry.
three of them by a certain time tomorrow?
Yes. By noon tomorrow. All right? All right. Any public comment? Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderman Stratt,
Yes.
Alderman Santee,
Yes.
Alderman Glad,
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy.
Yes.
Alderwoman Bassey.
Yes.
Alderman Cook,
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Thank you, I appreciate it. Look forward to getting your bid on the 26th.
Mayor,
Alderman Glenn, go ahead.
I'd just like to thank A&B, well, they're
That's
leaving.
KM.
Oh, that was K&M, I'm sorry, for the information they give us on the backing of the plywood versus the slats.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is 7A, is a motion to approve an ordinance annexing an approximate 42.5 acre unincorporated tract of land in McHenry County. Director Palarecki, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. About 3 years ago, the city council directed staff to analyze all unincorporated pockets within the city limits, and come back with presentations to council for annexations into the city if they were eligible. This is the final pocket of land that the city has identified as being able to be annexed into the city of McHenry. It's a 42.5 acre tract of land, wholly surrounded by the city limits, located north of the downtown area. It consists of 76 property owners. This is actually the third and final phase of the involuntary annexations that council directed staff to perform. So I am here with any questions. Back to you.
Thank you. At this time, I am looking for a motion to approve. Would you rather go to public comment on this one first before we do that? Yeah, okay. All right, if we can go ahead and have Pam Spain, please come up to the podium. If you don't mind, please state your full name and address for public record. Can you hit the middle button? Thank you.
All right, Pam Spain, 1720 North Riverside Drive, the subject in question on the annexation. So I wanted to speak today about the involuntary annexation of our property on Riverside Drive. I've lived there for over 25 years and have enjoyed a peaceful existence with the city commingled together. I have my own well, so beautiful water, don't need the city's. Have my own septic, also works beautifully. If I have to connect to the septic, it's going to cost me $60,000 to $70,000 because I need a pumping station to get that distance from my house to the road. That's an unacceptable connection price. So I'm not interested in doing this, along with the majority of my neighbors. We're primarily retirees along there that have fixed incomes. I'm not, but most of them are. And many of them have long distance and will require that pumping station and have 60 to 70K. So it's not just the additional taxes. The additional taxes are going to cost each of us about $1,000 a year, which is also a lot on fixed incomes for a lot of retirees. When I got the annexation letter, several of us neighbors talked. Some thought it was a waste of time to come here. But I think it's important that you understand the type of people that you're getting. We're happy to work with the city. We're happy to be a part of the city to some degree, but you're involuntarily annexing us and we're not happy about it. I know last year when you annexed a couple other people on our same street, the argument was given about the 911 dispatch. I'm happy to pay fees for 911 anytime I call it, if that needs to happen. I've been a pillar of volunteerism in the community, working on the Riverside Shops as skilled labor. I participate in the city all the time to help, but, I'm not looking to do that where my pocketbook is, and I'm getting nothing out of it. So what I see is this is an involuntary city annexation that violates the principle of consent. It infringes upon the property rights and self-determination of individuals and communities who have not given their consent to be annexed. Forced annexation deprives them of the ability to choose their own local government, because we haven't chosen any view because we were in the township. And we have not been, asked to impose these extra taxes. Democratic principles apply here. Involuntary annexation, by imposing governing authority on residents who have not had the opportunity to voice their opinions, is, not what we're all about here in this community. In some cases, involuntary annexation may result in residents being subject to higher taxes. In this case, that's going to be the case. It can be an unfair burden against the residents, which it is, and particularly if the annexing city does not provide any tangible advantages. We have all the advantages that we have right now with the township, and I feel that's really where we're at. So I would urge any of you to vote no to annexing our portion of the Riverside Drive. And I know it's been said that this has been kicked down the road for 40 years. None of you were here 40 years ago in these roles. I've only been on that street for 25 years, but I've been in the city for more than 40. And, we're happy township residents, and we like to stay that way.
Thank you. Steve Wagner?
Well, I just was gonna say.
If you could just step up to the podium, sorry, we have cameras in here for the Zoomers. Can you state your name and address for public record?
Okay. Steve Wagner.
You gotta press it again.
Oh, press the button now, sorry. Just leave it.
Turns red.
1715 North Riverside Drive.
Sure, she'll take care of it.
I did, oh. Anyway, so the house that I live in was my uncle's. And, that house was built in 1955. He built it himself. Some of you might remember his name was Walter Friend. And, we just feel like it's being shoved down our throats. And at the end of the Pledge of Allegiance, it says for liberty and justice for all. And I think that's what we should do for all of us. It's not just maybe what you people want, it's what we want. I mean, I don't get it, why you just want to do something like that. It doesn't make sense to any of us there that live there. It really doesn't. Well, that's my say.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Paul Swanson?
No.
Oh, sorry, my bad. He didn't put anything. Carol Friend? Please state your name and address for public record.
Carol Friend, 1620 Court Street. Good evening. I'm Carol Friend, a resident of Feger Subdivision and an officer for the not-for-profit corporation responsible for maintaining our roads. What city services do we use that we do not pay for? No one has been able to answer that question. Our taxes do pay for police, fire, and library already. You say we use your roads. So do the residents of neighboring towns, even Wisconsin residents. But are you forcing them to pay more property taxes? The city uses our roads too, from snowplows to garbage trucks to school buses, not to mention the multitude of people who park on our streets during city events. Have we asked the city for money to help maintain our roads? No. For 128 years, we alone have maintained our non-dedicated private roads, not the township, but us. It is amazing how little city officials know about our neighborhood, from the management of the roads to the topography of the area. The hill at the south end of Court would increase normal costs of water and sewer services should they be needed, thus placing severe financial hardship on the homeowner. The steep change in grade at the north end of Court would prove a challenge if made a through street. It would negatively impact the property owners in Figures and Timber Trail. Residents north and south of Figures do not want Court to become an arterial road. The roads are not only off-center, but are not wide enough to adequately handle two-way traffic. Most importantly, the safe, quiet atmosphere of the neighborhood would be forever ruined. If you are going to make a decision that will impact the living environment of so many people, Figures subdivision, Park Street, and the surrounding areas, the least you can do is make a well-informed decision that will be for the betterment of those involved. Not all homeowners are able to be here and comment. In the interest of time, we respectfully request the mayor and aldermen and women to read the letter which you all received earlier, addressing the annexation, and to consider tabling the vote until you have at least read, absorbed, and digested the letter. We appreciate your service to the community. We ask only that you be a responsible community leader who makes a well-informed decision that betters, not disrupts, our area. Your time and consideration are appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. John Michaels. Once again, please state your name and address for public record.
My name is John Michaels, 3306 West 2nd Avenue, McHenry. Same Figure subdivision that Carol just talked about. And basically, I've got pretty much same to say that they have said already. But according to the letter, it's a done deal. You're taking us in. Here's some of the calls I've gotten and people requested. Excuse me. You took us in because we're completely surrounded. Well, you just repaired roads up Court Street and First Avenue. Now we're completely surrounded by roads. Now I want to know when our roads will be done this year also. One of the city road or township roads was already done. So I'm kind of wondering when ours will be done at the same time, Figure subdivision. And the other thing on the Green Street extension, in the last couple of years, we put in thousands and thousands of dollars with tree trimming and brush removal. That street's only 16 feet wide, and you start getting cars going up and down that street, and that brush keeps coming in, and if that ain't kept up constantly, people are going to get their cars damaged. With two cars trying to meet on that road is not going to work. And the other thing that was brought up was the barrier at the end of Court Street. That is probably the biggest one that people have brought up. There's a barrier there now, and we would like to have it stay that way. We have a couple grandkids in there. One's deaf and one's blind. And if that's opened up, that could become a racetrack through there. And I've had 3 people said that if that's opening up, they're more than likely going to move. And some of those people have been there 50 years. And I don't want that to happen. This has been a community, I've been there 46 years. And I don't want it to happen. So, I mean, I hope you guys take that into consideration. This is something that none of it, out of the 36 homes, not one person's come to me and said, I want to get taken into the city. And I've been a president for 8 years, and no one's ever brought that up in 8 years. And I'm just hoping you take that into consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, John. That's all who signed in. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to make a public comment regarding this item? So please state your name and address for public record.
I'm Shannon Rovina. I live at 1639 Park Street. So when you take Park, I'm the last house. You know, it's just me. So we have a very small driveway. Tunyons live next to us, and we have no frontage. There's literally no frontage. So the garbage men, the leaf service, it's impossible for us to put like leaves for them to come and pick up. We have over 2 acres. So we just see that there's a lot of problems. We just moved in August, so these people have lived here for like 50 years. I feel terrible for them, but we bought thinking we're in an unincorporated area only, you know, the end of last summer. So it's kind of a hardship too. You're asking us to pay money, but we're not getting any other services. I did talk to Mr. Sheriff about the letter that we got. So our road apparently is an alley. So we don't get like snow removal. We're not a road at Park, so it like ends like, I don't know how far in, and then it just kind of ends, and then we take care of the road. And he couldn't even guarantee that we would have snow service or leaf service back in there, and that's many houses. And like somebody else had said, they're very narrow. I don't know how you would have 2 cars. We squish in there, we're fine, but, you know, big trucks, I don't know how that would work very well. Not being able to burn, no chickens. I have 2 acres. Come on, chickens make me happy. We need chickens. Just little things like that that I think is disappointing, because we are a big community, right? We want to become, I'm sorry, I'm very nervous, self-sustainable, right? So why can't we have our own little community? I mean, these people have been working together and figuring it out for all of these years. I don't see what the benefit is at all.
On that, I would like you guys to tell us what the benefit is for us to be in, because I don't see it. The fire's gonna come no matter what. The police department's gonna come after we've been robbed or my car's broken into, so that's kind of irrelevant. And the things that you guys say that you're going to provide us, you can't. There's no, like she said, we have no frontage for our leaves, so please tell me how you're gonna pick my leaves up now.
2 acres of leaves.
Because I have no literally road frontage. I don't even have anywhere for me to put them for you to suck them up.
Right.
So, I mean, all the things that you say you're gonna benefit us with, I see no benefits. It's actually gonna be a hindrance for me.
And well and septic, I don't even know how you would get in there with a well or septic,
Right,
or, I mean, water and sewer.
You're 200 yards from us, so even if we wanted to hook up and we had the 70 grand, we couldn't even hook up to you guys because you're almost to the park.
Right.
So,
We're
I
so
find
far
a
away.
lot of it really funny.
Unnecessary.
Yeah.
So, that was all I really had to say.
We were born and raised here, now we moved back in. We know the history of the house that we're in, and know that the name, you know, Peterson's home was actually, that's why Peterson Park was named after them, you know.
Our house was built in 1904, it's such a cool, you know, existence back there, and it's sad to see it kind of go, so.
Not to mention, I don't understand why it's not a vote, like it was said, I mean.
Right, that we're involuntarily. Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Any others that would like to make a public comment? Sir?
Hi, Ted Lester, 1710 Court Street. I would just like to ask what benefits would be offered to us. Are you guys going to run water down our roads, sewer down our roads, widen our roads? Is there any questions that can be answered about that right now?
No, so we don't respond to every single person, so we'll go ahead and, you know, we'll have staff get in on that conversation with council once we go back to council conversations.
Okay.
So
will some of them be addressed tonight possibly then?
yeah, we can ask staff and we can definitely answer those questions, sure.
Because again, we feel like we're being trapped and we don't even know if we're getting offered anything out of this. Like they said, other than fire, you know, cops, which we have county, what will come, but that's one of the biggest concerns. We'd all like to know what kind of the future plan is with this if we do get annexed in, so.
Sure.
But
Okay.
that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Sure.
Danielle Elward, 1804 North Riverside Drive, McHenry, Illinois. We moved to McHenry in 1957. My house was originally built in 1911. I'm over 300 feet from the road. Actually, it's close to 600. No. So for us, for my property, to get water and sewer, it's insane. There's no way I can afford it. I'm retired. We get taxed to the heck. unbelievably, just because we have a river in front of us, there's no benefit to us at all. So all we're gonna do is get taxed. Is there anything that we get? I mean, is the price gonna go up, our taxes? Yes. What are we gonna get from that? I already have police protection, I already have fire protection, so I don't have sidewalks. There's no way I could afford the water and sewer. So there's no advantage whatsoever. And for that, we have to pay $1,000 extra. We're already getting overtaxed. If my house was not on the river, it would be half the taxes that I'm paying. So I see no reason for it. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Any others that would like to make a public comment?
Hi, my name is Scott Franz, and I live at 3202 3rd Avenue. I'm the last street on Court on the left side. My biggest concern would be the real estate value. If I go to sell my property now and they know a few years from now that they're going to have to put in city water, city sewer, and have to pay for that, guess what? I'm not going to make that money on my house. So that's just more money out of my pocket. So I used to sell real estate. That kills a neighborhood. If all of a sudden they're like, well, you're going to buy now, but 3 years from now you're going to have to pay for this yourself. And that's all being forced on us for, it sounds like, nothing. There's not going to be any upgrades to us. Sheriff will come to my house, fire department will come to my house. We've been our own entity and we've maintained it, and the reason we bought in there was because we wanted to be left alone. It's a nice little community. I lived in McHenry for 20 years. I didn't even know it existed. I've been there for 15 now, and it's a fabulous place. But it just sounds like we're getting hosed, basically. It's all about money, and it's sickening. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any others that would like to make a public comment? Ma'am, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Mona Westfall. I live at 3305 3rd Avenue. I am angry. I am totally angry. The only thing I'm going to get out of this is higher taxes, and I would like to know how this is legal. How is it legal that you can just come and say, this is what you're going to do? That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else that would like to make a public comment? Last opportunity? All right. Thank you, Trish. I'm going to open it for council discussion. Is there anyone from the council like to make a comment? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I would be totally against opening Court Street. I think those two subdivisions would be destroyed if you open that up. Also, the zoning, I think we should grandfather them in. If they got issues that would go against our zoning laws, I think we should be grandfathered in. I'd like to address some of the questions. Chief, can you just briefly explain the difference between McHenry Police and the sheriffs going to these homes?
The primary difference would just be response times and then the frequency of non-response calls for extra patrols. We would be there more often. County split up into 7 quadrants countywide, so you're not going to see a squad car as much as you would see one for active patrols in McHenry, and then a response to an emergency call would be much faster coming from a McHenry car rather than a county car.
Thank you. Director Strange, can you address the road? Obviously, it's going to be in the city. Can you address the leaf pickup and road maintenance?
Well, assuming they be annexed, they'd be incorporated into our refuse contract, so they would be eligible for a leaf pickup, as would any resident. And then as far as the road maintenance, we've taken a look at them. They do not meet our standard, but in terms of accepting them as is and maintaining them, we do believe we're capable of maintaining them. We are capable of routing plows down all of those roads now. We do have some, as you know, purchasing the one-ton trucks, which are a little bit more maneuverable. So if a truck like that were to be added to that route, it would make us a little more capable of that. As far as tree trimming, we have a 5-year tree trim prune cycle that is contracted. It's been very productive. Incorporating this neighborhood wouldn't be an issue. The brush clearing, that's something we do on a fairly routine basis. We dedicate, I would say, about a month of that every year to various problem locations in town. If this location warranted it and they were in the city, it would be something we'd be capable and willing to do.
Good. Thank you. Director Lynch, we're talking about raising property taxes here. On an average $3,000 home, what are we talking?
I'd have to look that up really quick. Don't know off the top of my head. I only have a $200,000 house for McHenry City for 2021's rate, because that's what I have here. It would be $400.
For a $200,000 home?
Correct.
For a city. Okay, thank you so much. Alderwoman, you're the real estate guru here. Well, Sean is too, I guess. Alderwoman Miller, what would this make their property go up being in the city?
So I'm going to speak to a bigger process here, if I could, for a moment. So the genesis of annexation began years ago when we tried to do some city planning, and we ran into pockets like your own where we'd like to do a big comprehensive plan, and all of a sudden we had a roadblock, unincorporated space. That conversation continued again when we started talking about the roads and we started communicating with the township on road maintenance, repair, care. We had the same conversation about where does the city end and where does the township step in and what makes more logic or sense to that process. When we started to have more conversation about a comprehensive big plan, once again, the isolated islands of unincorporated space became an obstacle for a solution. And I'll use one of my favorites, the golf cart ordinance. When we started to plan golf cart routes, we couldn't accommodate our residents' needs because the roads that we needed to connect the dots became unincorporated and not under our authority. So to speak to this big process, it's not for the faint of heart that we take this on. I understand that you're angry. I understand that you felt you haven't had a voice. But from our perspective, we're looking at the big picture of the comprehensive use and plan for all residents and people who aren't residents but use the benefits of the city. So I hear you loud and clear. I get it. I lived in unincorporated McHenry a very long time before I came in to the city limits. We can't plan, and I'm only speaking for myself, we can't plan what services and benefits we're about to bring you because you're not us. So I understand your frustration. However, having sat on this side of the table and looked at trying to create more services and benefits for all of our residents, unincorporated space became an obstacle that we're trying to work through. I'll let City Attorney McCardle speak to the legality. It's by statute that we can do this. It's a state statute. It's not something we made up out of thin air. And to Alderman McClatchy's point, are you going to be worth more that you're in the city when you have benefit to city services? I am a real estate professional. I think you all know me. People do ask when they're purchasing a home, is it unincorporated and that brings back benefits or not? Or are you incorporated? I'm going to refer you back to your letter that you all received. It says you're not obligated to hook up to the city sewer and water until your wells or septics potentially fail. That's going to be an obligation of the health department either way. When you have a failed well or septic and the health department knows that city sewer and water are within proximity, they're not going to approve a well or septic application. They're going to ask you to hook up to city services.
We can't even get over to you, we can't even get over to us if we're gonna have to build a well. So some of what you're saying is, you're talking outside of your neck.
All right, sir, stop.
So I was asked to comment. I'm commenting on things that I believe I know the answer to.
Sir, I'm going to ask you one more time.
The question
Another time, you're going to
was,
be removed from here.
will your value go up? And in my opinion, your value will not be negatively affected and positively affected by coming into the city of McHenry.
Thank you. Alderman McClatchy, anything else?
No, that's it, thanks.
All right. Alderman Bessie?
I don't know this, so I don't know who to ask. What is the life expectancy of a well? Does anyone know that? Is it 20 years, 30 years?
I don't think there's an actual answer for that. Some of them last 100 years. It all depends on the aquifer. So it's, I mean, we have single-family homes in the city of McHenry still that have been incorporated for 50 years that are on wells still. That the city water's sitting out in front of their house and we haven't made them hook up. So that would be the same thing in this case. It would be the health department that would, if, yes, the majority of them don't have it available to them, but some of these homeowners, especially along Riverside Drive, do have it available to them. We would not make them hook up unless the health department required them to hook up through a failure of their septic or their well.
Would we give them a grace period? Let's say, for example, we annexed them in, and 5 years down the road, they're going to need a new well. I mean, that's a lot of money. So is there any, grace period we could give?
Well, we couldn't give them a grace period because they have no water if their well failed.
Well, applying for the, with the health department.
I guess, yeah, I don't understand that question because...
Okay, if your well goes dry, you dig for another well.
Correct.
So let's say somebody's well goes dry in 5 years. It's lasted 100. It's dry in 5 years. And they would like to do another well, but because they're annexed, they can't. They have to hook up to the city, correct?
No, well, annexed, it is correct, but annexed or not, the properties that have water available to them will be required to hook up to that water, even if they're unincorporated right now.
Okay.
And then our ordinance would require them to annex that property.
Okay, all right. One other question. Are there any plans to extend Court Street? Because I do agree with Alderman McClatchy that it kind of disrupts the flow of that area.
To extend it, no. In the attached memorandum that I provided, I wouldn't even recommend immediately making the connection. There are some geometry issues, which anyone who's been out there can see. My recommendation was just that we reserve the right to make that connection, because at some point, just the benefits of contiguity between neighborhoods and routing of plow trucks is typically you want contiguity between your neighborhoods.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Alderman Graham?
Yeah. I think one of the big questions is, if we were to annex tonight, what happens with the roadways? Not necessarily do we just automatically take over the roadways, correct? They're private roads. Troy, could you answer that?
You're correct. We have no obligation to accept them as public infrastructure.
So how does the process work as far as whether or not they stay private or if they become public roads? Whose decision is that? Probably Attorney McCardle would probably be the one to have to address that, huh?
So I was asked to look at that a couple weeks ago, and I looked at it, I reviewed what law I could, and I contacted the Township Highway Department and talked to Jim. I talked to the staff here, and the result, when you annex unincorporated property, if the roads have been dedicated to a government, the township or whatever you're annexing, then they would remain public. Jim
Private.
Condon indicated that Riverside, out of all these roads, Riverside is a township road. So Riverside would be annexed by the process we're conducting, it seems for sure. The rest of the roads are private unless they're been dedicated public, which we don't believe they have, or they've been used by prescription for more than 15 years for public roads. That's something that needs to be determined. If they've been used for 15 years by the public, they're prescriptive roads, and we would annex those by law.
There are signs out there right now that say private.
Those are factors to consider, whether it's prescription or whether they remain private.
Right.
If you drive your car out there and there's no interruption, there's no barriers. I heard the word barrier. Barrington Hills was a fan of barricading roads, saying these are private and we're going to blockade them. That's a private road because they actually stopped people from using it. In this case, I don't know what the facts are, but what I'm telling you is if they're prescriptive roads by law, then they're our roads. If they're private, then they're not our roads.
Okay.
So that has to be determined before we start plowing.
Yeah, and again, I know we had an agreement with them years back for many years as far as plowing that subdivision. They do maintain their own roads. They've always handled them as private. They are marked as far as the fact that it's private in there, and
reaching an agreement with these people with regard to roads, if you annex the property, would be the best. Either you agree they're public and we'll take over the maintenance from here on into the future, or vice versa. We'll give you MFT money that's available, and you people take care of your own roads. But reaching an agreement with 36 people is probably not going to happen either.
right. I mean, we've got other subdivisions that have private roads that we don't maintain, that they maintain themselves. If we've decided that after research and everything else that they remain private roads, and if the residents down the road decide that they want to open them up to the city because they want to, again, have the same services as far as repaving the roads and all that, how does that process start?
They would dedicate them they would sign a plat of dedication.
So they would, in other words, that group would have to get together and then dedicate it to the city.
But again, that takes 36 people. You can't do it with half. It's not an association. Everybody owns their share of the road.
Their share
I would
of the
think.
road, right.
I don't even know that, but I would guess that's the case. Yeah.
Right, because they all have a right to the roadway, according to.
Depends on how their deeds are cut. Yeah.
I get that. Okay. I just want to mention, as far as Court Street, I feel the same way. I just would not, in any way, shape, or form, want to see that opened up. Those barriers, I'd rather see something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but I still wouldn't want to see that roadway opened up. I don't think, again, it would destroy that subdivision, both subdivisions. So I'd be in support of and in favor with, just like a couple of the other aldermen have mentioned, as far as not seeing that road ever opened up. Just one of the things I want to mention, I know Alderwoman Miller mentioned as far as planning and everything else, but there are certain things that code enforcement need to keep an eye on. I mean, and one thing is burning. I know somebody brought up the burning. I mean, here we've taken for probably about 24 years now that we created a non-burning ordinance as far as for leaves and all that. And we're gonna be discussing picking up leaves again, and we didn't create that ordinance until we had the leaf pickup, process in place so that, we could not impact, the residents so much with leaves. But, you gotta remember, I mean, if they're in the middle of the city, that does affect us, and we have no say-so if they're not inside the city as far as that goes. And there's different things like that, as much as the city impacts them, they impact the city as well. So I just wanted to bring that up too. How many people that leave that subdivision and never think twice about the fact that they use Washington? And, your crew, or, well, not your crew, but, whoever did it, for us, did a beautiful job of resurfacing that one. And, they've used it for forever, and nobody's ever said, well, they didn't belong there because they weren't part of McHenry. And I wouldn't think that, vice versa and all that. And I just think, there are benefits that people that have moved in there 40-some-odd years ago never even thought of, as far as the benefits of being in the city of McHenry. They've always considered themselves in the city of McHenry, even though they weren't annexed in. It's just more formalizing now, and again, making it so much more organized, totally, as much as possible within the city limits. Thank you.
Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. This is all turning around as we go here, but I had the impression that once they came in the city, if they had a pothole to be filled next week, we could go out there. So what we're saying is, as long as they're private, we're going to take their tax money.
As long as they're private, as long as they're private, they're not public.
Right.
And they're not our roads.
Okay.
If the city staff or the city council, if you choose to exercise that discretion, determines that the roads have been used by prescription for more than 15 years, you go take care of the roads. If there's an issue about that, then that issue has to be resolved in the process. But, we're annexing the property, we need to make that call. And making it by agreement with these people is better than not.
Alderman McClatchy, to address your issue there, I mean, I have a road in Water's Edge area that has been there since the 80s, and it's a private road. It was never built to the standards of the city as far as width and everything else. The city has never, we've looked at it many years ago as far as whether or not we would take it over, and the city really didn't want to balk on that, and of course the owners didn't want to give up more property. We also have one, Chesapeake Hills, that's a private roadway as well. And again, after a certain period of time, people realize the expense of those roadways, and they want to take and have the city take care of it, and then they want to dedicate it. And in some cases, it works, and in other cases, it isn't. If it isn't anywhere near wide enough, and it's, I believe one of the ladies had mentioned one drive there is an alleyway. I don't know if the city would even want to take that in as a dedicated road because of that. And again, I'm just talking off the top of my head as far as not knowing exactly which roadway that is or whatever, but all I'm saying is everything needs to be looked at there, and if we make that decision for annexation today, that doesn't just give up our responsibilities to them, as well as for them to pursue to us different things that would help them. Thank you.
Now, the roads we were talking about, were they annexed in?
Actually, the one in Water's Edge was built in there. And no, both of them were in the city when they were built, and it was many years ago. Since then, I think probably since the early 90s, we stopped as far as developments of private roads or frowned on them. That I remember, I think one time we took by Timber Trail, and part of that was private, and I don't even remember if it ever totally got dedicated or not. But I think that's the only one I can remember in the time I've been on the council, as far as the fact that any roadway was built in a subdivision that was private.
I don't know if you have enough information. Yes, I would do that.
Any other comments, questions by council? I'm gonna go ahead and open it up for public. We usually don't go back to the public, but sir, I wasn't trying to ignore you. Just come on up to the podium, if you don't mind, sir. Sorry. If you don't mind, just hit that center button. Thank you.
Okay, now, I'm kind of getting a little confused. You're taking us into the city, but don't want to take care of our roads, so we got to keep our association going where people have to pay money to take care of our roads.
That's not true. That's not.
Well, that's
not
kind of what you're
said.
saying.
No. It's a matter of law. If we're not going to agree, right, if all of you people want the city to take the roads, my guess is they'll take them happily. But that hasn't been discussed. So if
When
there's-
will
if
it be discussed?
Well, right now, if you want, if there's 36 people here.
Well,
But
no.
look, the point is that if there's no agreement, right, we can reach an agreement any time, but if there's no agreement, the law has to step in. And the law says one of two things, it's either private or it's public. So I don't know which it is, but I told you how that's determined. If the roads have been used for more than 15 years by the public, in general, they're by prescription, they're public roads, just like they were Riverside's Township, and we'll take it by law. Once we annex, if we do, then the roads are ours automatically.
So if we get one person that says they don't want to do it, we're screwed.
No, that means we don't have an agreement. That doesn't mean the law is not going to tell us which way to go. I mean, I don't know these. I can't give you the answer because I don't even know where this place is, but...
You never looked at it before today?
No, I'm a lawyer. I don't do anything. But
Oh, there you go. Good point.
I'm just telling you, the city council or the city staff will have to make that call if we annex. And once they make the call, if there's a disagreement, then we have to resolve that disagreement. If there's no agreement and we start to plow the road, the clock starts ticking on public use a whole lot more aggressively than in the last 40 years because we're plowing and plowing and plowing and maintaining. And once that takes place, it will become public much more by prescription. So it's going to happen one way or the other. I would rather have it by agreement. So if you can get everybody together and make a decision, you should get back to the city on that or and vice versa. It would seem to me to be, if it's going to be annexed, you'd want to let the roads go and have the city take care of those, and you don't have to worry about the maintenance, but I don't know if that's the case.
Well, we want to stay the way we are, but that ain't going to happen.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir?
Let's say hypothetically, we did agree to have you guys take over the roads. Would the council be willing to agree not to open up Court Street for good?
The majority, I think the majority.
Yeah.
And that would be a permanent thing? It could never be revisited?
Well, it's not made permanent, but,
You could have a different council.
yeah.
Okay. So once you guys take over the roads, you'd always have the option to go back and vote and open it up down the line.
I would hope the council and, other elected officials following us would keep their word
Okay.
that we are, that would be the
Is
case.
there some kind of legality loophole, like for water sewer, for like the couple that has no water sewer near them? Is that still being technically offered to us if there's no water and sewer there? I mean, is there some type of like foot or?
Well, so anybody who chose to connect to our water or wastewater system, even in spite of not being compelled to by the distance requirement, we would allow them to connect. It's a matter of, what your construction costs are and whether it's worth it to you, because those distances, especially the properties along Riverside, are huge distances to overcome.
It'd be crazy they'd have to go through their neighbor's yard, stuff like that. I mean, I know there's easements, stuff like that, but I mean, so technically from a legal standpoint, are we still getting offered water and sewer, like in their case, where they'd have to run it, I don't know how many feet, yards, whatever, I guess is what I'm asking.
It's available and you'd be allowed to connect. Whether or not it's the best decision financially, it's still being made in maybe in someone's best interest to stick with well and septic.
But like the letter said, if the well or septic fails, so are we legally at that point?
You're entitled to connect. They're
But only
Entitled, but let's say hypothetically I go to sell and my septic fails. Do I legally have to connect to the water that I feel is not technically being offered to me because it's an impractical distance? I mean, $100,000 to run a sewer line and water line is
Right.
insane.
The health department makes that determination, not
Okay.
the city of McHenry.
Gotcha.
You would have to lobby and apply for a variance to connect to a municipal source of water or a municipal sewer source. I have seen them approve quite a few of those based on the cost of installing a system. You know, if you have to pump or if you have to go to a mound system because your yard's not big enough or whatnot.
Mhm.
So they have. In fact, we have one right here on Green Street, right next to City Hall. That they just put in a new septic
Okay.
because it was cost too much to get to our sewer main.
Gotcha. And there's no way to legally give us like a grandfather clause or something on that?
That's all the county rules.
It
It's
is
not
the
the
county
city's,
rules?
right?
Okay.
That's the county rules. They oversee your wells and your septics.
Okay, so it'd be totally up to them, and
Whether you were
But
annexed or not.
it doesn't matter, it's whether you're annexed or not. That question would still come up. If you're not annexed, they're still gonna look to see how close you are to a municipal source of water or sewer.
Okay.
And if you're close enough, they're gonna say, you have to hook up. And the city's gonna say, in order for you to hook up, you have to annex.
okay. So what, any idea what that distance is? I mean, I know
250 feet typically.
250 feet to water and sewer?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Carol?
If I could enlighten Mr. McCardle, our roads are non-dedicated private roads. For up until 4 years ago, the city plowed our roads, and we paid for them to be plowed, but we maintained our roads. And then 4 years ago, we were told that the city no longer would plow our roads, and we had to contract with a private person, and that's what we've done for the last 4 years. But the roads are private, non-dedicated roads. And you can talk to Jim Condon about it, because we've been working with him to try to get our area into the township. But
He
that's
and I-
the
he
status
and I
of the
are on
roads.
the same
And I don't
wavelength.
understand what it means by prescription.
Right, but that's what you need to understand, because prescription's what we're talking about.
Well, I'm asking you, what do you mean by prescription? Because for, one time you said for 15 years, and then another time you said for 50 years.
Here's a statute. So the law just says, prescription's something that two people can disagree on, because prescription takes into consideration factors. Your road maintenance by you people is one factor. Accessibility to public traffic is another. Taxes on the road, what money's used to pay is one factor. You throw all those onto the various sides of the scale, and the judge determines, are they prescriptive or are they private? I can't answer that, but I'm telling you how to evaluate that, and I'd rather do it by agreement, and then we don't have to worry about disagreeing. So I don't know what 36 people think.
Well, I don't want to take the council's time by trying to read over this and digest it. That's why I was asking you
Yeah, that
what
just
you
gives
mean
you
by
the-
prescription.
That
Because
just
the only
gives you the
people
law
who
of prescription.
The only people who travel those roads are the people that live in that area.
But they're open to everybody. If I
Yeah.
wanted to drive down there because somebody told me to go check it out, because I'm just the lawyer,
Right.
and I drove down there, I could just drive right through. There's no blockade, right?
Correct.
But there are signs that say private?
Yes.
Okay, well, those are things that we have to consider. It's not clear.
Yeah, and it also states that it's a dead end because Court Street is a dead-end street.
That's relevant.
Pardon me?
That's a relevant factor to consider whether it's a prescriptive set of roads. Maybe that road's private and the other one's prescription. I don't know. They don't all have to be the same. Riverside's public,
I understand that.
so Jim tells me.
But, right, and their roads have been maintained by the township. The township has not maintained our roads in 128 years.
No, but you use some township money, right? You use some MFT money, I understand?
Yes, we
Okay,
do.
well, that leans toward prescription. It doesn't lean toward private, it leans toward prescription. So there's, do you understand what I mean by factors? It's not clear. Somebody has to weigh those, and that guy's called a judge.
So a judge determines if they're
Only if there's
public
a
or private?
dispute. If there's a dispute,
If everyone agrees, let's
Right,
say
if-
this does get annexed, if everyone agrees that the city should take over the roads, at that point, then
Then
we
we're
would
good.
take over the roads, we're good to go. It's
Okay.
almost like it's a vote on your end
Yeah.
at that point.
Right.
Which is
But
crazy,
we-
but
A vote to do what?
for us to take it. I'm not saying a vote like, not everyone has to literally vote, but
We'd like to know
majority,
what,
we'd like to make
if
sure.
the property's annexed, we would like to know what all 36 people want with regard to the roads. Do you want the city to maintain the road, or do you want to keep doing it yourself?
Is that an option?
It's something the city council should, and staff should consider before they decide whether it's a prescriptive road. I would consider it.
Okay, I still not clear on the
Well,
road issue.
as you're
but-
sitting there, if you were annexed today, once you got over your anxiety over that, if it happened, would you want to keep maintaining the road into the future, or would you want the city to take it over and say, you can have the road? Which way would you personally like to see it?
I would have to think about that, because
Right.
I've seen the status of the roads in town versus our status of roads.
Okay. Fine, then you have time to think about it,
Okay.
because right now, we're just dealing with the annexation. The road is a legal issue that has to be determined, and we will do that. Once we decide whether it's even our property, jurisdiction.
Okay, I was just trying to clarify for you, since you were unfamiliar with our area, the status of the roads.
Right, I got a lot of information from Jim, and I think he and I are on the same wavelength.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, more questions. If we did have the city take over the roads, to get back to the grandfather thing, would they widen the roads, or would we lose our easements? I mean, because they're tiny roads. I mean, you guys have been back there, I'm sure you have, so would that be?
For the time being, we would just maintain them as is, with the exception of Park and then that far west and north section of Green Street. They do meet a reasonable width standard for bidirectional traffic. We do have alleys in town, which we maintain now, which are only about 10, 12 feet. We route plows down them, and we maintain them as our pavements. So that would probably be the similar standard that we would treat those two. If we were to ever widen them, I would say that would take more than a maintenance operation. It takes some sort of capital expansion and widening operation. And we do those, but that would be done at the direction of council.
Would it be a possibility that some become one-way streets then at this current time, or? Because, I mean, some of them are too narrow to get two cars through. Just so we're educated on what might happen here, you know?
I mean, our alleys right now aren't noted as one-way streets
Okay.
right now either.
Okay.
We maintain them.
All right, that's all, thank you.
Pam?
You guys probably don't realize, but we have two alleys on Riverside Drive as well that are maintained by the township. The residents currently plow and maintain them, but they're actually owned by the township. One is by one of the gentlemen that spoke across earlier, and one is a couple doors down from us. There are two gravel roads in question in our area as well on Riverside Drive. So we would also have to know what's going to happen with those roads or alleys, and are they going to be maintained by the city? What's going to happen with them? Seems like it's just as confusing as Court Street. And by the look on your faces, I don't think any of you guys realize these two exist. But one is shared by 3 houses, one is shared by 1 house. It was put there when the subdivision back of the old Target was put in for drainage and stuff. That was made a alley, I don't know exactly what they want to call it, but it's an alley maintained by the township. So we have 2 of them on Riverside Drive as well.
Thank you, ma'am.
So just 2 things that Alderman was talking about, the big picture. When you were looking at our subdivision as the big picture, and she talked about golf carts. What else, big picture-wise, does our subdivision gonna have to offer anybody that does right now? I mean, nothing's gonna change, right? So what else is it gonna offer the community that it doesn't already? If it's just golf carts, I've been a real estate broker too for over 35 years. It does affect property values. If you bring a client in there and you say, hey, guess what? If this goes, you're gonna have to hook up the water and sewer, and it's gonna cost you $25,000. Well, guess what? That $25,000 is gonna be taken out of my pocket at closing. So that's just an asinine statement. Thank you.
Any other public comments? All right. For item 7A, yes. Oh, sir. Please state your name and address for public record.
My name is Bob Thiessen, 3308 Second Avenue. That's Fegers subdivision. I'm a disabled senior citizen living on a very low fixed income. The little bit that I did have has been eaten up by time and inflation. And we bought a little house, slightly over 700 square feet. There's probably a lot of people in this room that have garages bigger than our house. We bought it because it's what we could afford. The taxes are low there, part of the reason we purchased the house. We cannot afford additional expenses that are going to be associated with this, whether it be taxes, whether it be expenses associated with improvements, or whatever you folks plan on doing. For us, it's just not going to happen. It's not feasible. I mean, you can say, well, it's only $500, it's only $1,000, it's only $2,500. If there comes a point in time where we were forced to hook up to municipal sewer and water, it wouldn't happen. I mean, I don't know what you would do at that point. I don't know if you would subsidize us, but if we had to spend thousands of dollars to hook up to anything, we don't have it. I'm way past the age and physical ability to go out and earn the money to do it. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'm not unique. In our subdivision, there are many senior citizens. We have disabled veterans. We have people on fixed incomes that are happy living their little lives in their little humble homes the way they are. And they really can't afford to have them changed, especially when there's no major benefit to them. Even if there was, I couldn't afford to do it. So I just wanted you folks to realize this isn't just a matter of people not being willing to change. It's a matter of people not being able to accept what may come with the change. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trish. All right, council discussion. Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Thank you. Counselor, can we go back to these 36 votes? Is that a majority vote?
No, that would take everyone's agreement with us to sign a plat of dedication to actually have a legal dedication, forget prescription. We're going to dedicate our roads to you, and then we would accept that, record it, and it's done.
So every single one would have to
Yeah.
agree? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it doesn't do any good to have pumpkin teeth because you haven't got the whole road, right?
Alderman Santee, go ahead.
Just to further Alderman McClatchy, they have an association, a president, a treasurer. Can't they go to a vote and then bring that to us?
Well, no, because the association doesn't hold legal title to that part of the road. The owners hold legal title. The association is it's a voting entity that has no, I assume, no legal title to the road we're interested in. I assume that's the individuals, but I don't even know that for sure.
Okay, so I understand that.
We know the road's not dedicated according to Jim Condon. So if the road's not dedicated, then their center lines should, I mean, their property lines should go to the center of the road, theoretically.
All right, thank you.
Just to clarify, the plat for the subdivision is attached to the supplement. There are roads that are platted, they were just never dedicated. So there are platted, I think 66-foot wide right-of-ways or something.
Okay, that comes back to prescription if they're not dedicated. There has to be conveyance language on the plat. You know, like, our current subdivision plats say hereby dedicated to the city of McHenry, blah, blah. And if there's no dedication on the plat, well, then the plat doesn't get you to conveyance, so it remains the issue of prescription versus private.
Any other questions or comments by council? See none? All right. At this time, I'm looking for a motion to approve 7A as presented. Alderman Miller?
I will put it on the table, and I will make the motion that we approve 7A as presented.
Thank you. I need a second. All right. There's no second on the table, David.
So the motion fails. Are there any other motions that related to 7A? If there's no motions, then it will fail. We'll move on to 8. Going once. Going twice.
Alderman Santee?
I'd just like to ask that, I know, reading here, the President, Mr. Michaels, and Treasurer Friend, if the association for this subdivision can potentially meet and have a discussion further on and pass it on to staff in regards to, potentially being annexed at some point in the near future, with the caveat that we would take over and maintain your roads. I think that's the key issue here. I would definitely like to see the maintenance, well, and if it's something that is not comfortable with the association, I would just like to have that communicated to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or question by council? Alderman Glenn?
I just want to state that I know if I lived in that subdivision, I wouldn't want to give up the right to have the roads dedicated if I had a choice, because few people mentioned the fact of nice, quiet subdivision that's, I wouldn't want to be sitting on Court Street wondering whether the next council that comes in would want to open up Court Street. We can make that decision. We wouldn't want to do that, but that doesn't mean the next council. So all I'm getting at is those are issues that I think this will come up again, and it might not come up for 10 years. Who knows? But if it ever does, I would hope that all the issues were investigated and there was plenty of communication back and forth of what people would want, and everybody was totally informed of where their positions were, as whether it be the resident or the city, so that everything was, people come to the meeting, yes, address their concerns, but yet everybody knows where they stand at that particular point, rather than having to ask all those questions at the meeting. And again, like I say, it might not be for another 10 years or 20 years, who knows, but let's put it in the minutes of the meeting so that we realize as a city that we need to have all those things discussed and ironed out before it would ever come back to council for a decision like this. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions by council? All right, this item is dead. So thank you very much. Everyone have a good night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, what?
Maybe there's lots of things, Chris, you don't know about me.
Have a good night.
Sue just went to the restroom, so.
Yeah, we're gonna take a 5-minute break here, if you don't mind.
We are going to take a 5-minute?
We are.
Okay, cool. Takes me 15 minutes to take a 5-minute. You want to start without me?
Takes me 5 minutes to get up. No, just kidding. Right. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get started. All right, 8A is a conceptual plan presentation, Courtyards of McHenry Townhome Development. Mr. Swanson, his team is here. Director Palarecki, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Paul Swanson and Associates is conceptually proposing to construct a 12-acre, 110-unit owner-occupied townhome development located directly east of the intersection of Remington Trail and Crystal Lake Road. The proposed townhome development includes amenities such as pickleball, basketball courts, outdoor gazebo. It is consistent with the city future land use map for medium density residential development, and that's 9 dwelling units per acre. The developer is seeking input from the council tonight with this conceptual presentation. Paul Swanson is here. Paul has a little bit of a health issue and cannot speak. So Tom Burney, right?
Yeah.
If there's any questions, in the packet was the layout. It's very, very conceptual. We're looking for some feedback from council as far as if this is a product and a placement of a product that the city council would be in favor of, or not in favor of, and the reasons why, basically. So, Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Rob.
One more thing. This is part of our development process, is to have the developer do a conceptual presentation. This is a very minor one. Mr. Swanson did do a similar presentation for a property east of here on Bull Valley Road, but that deal did fall through prior to any closing on the property. So he's back for more, and if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Ross. Paul, would you like to get started, kind of explain, or would you like us to ask questions?
Well, I have a lot of cancer treatment, radiation and all that that's taken away my ability to talk very well. I'll do my best. Ross is he's a great community development director, but a terrible judge of time. I was signing in, and I said, Ross, when do you think we'll get up tonight? Oh, it'll be pretty quick.
Oh, that's great.
You know, unlike the other group, we love McHenry. We love the roads. We love the sewer. We love the water. That's why we're here, because you have it all.
Right.
But anyway, if you have questions, I'm an architect developer in Mont Prospect. I've been doing this a long time, as you can tell, and we love the area, and there is another townhome development a little bit to the northwest, up Remington Drive, and then right there. So we're within I would just say a stone's throw, but it hurt your arm. But we're close. So anyway, if you have any, it's 110 units, 2 and 3 bedroom. They should be all 3 bedroom or 2 bedroom with a den or office. And all have 2-car garage. They're like 1,800 square feet, including the garage, 1,400 square feet without the garage. They all have a 2-car garage in them. So, I don't know, we have a lot of amenities with it, and we love to do it here, and you can see it on the board up there. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Can we just go to the architecture, because I think this architecture is pretty unique, and it shows itself very well. And maybe Paul, Paul, maybe you could just talk about some of the elements of this.
Well, this is like row homes, and it would be brick, face brick, and hardy board siding, all maintenance-free materials. There would be an HOA that would be responsible for all the outside of the building, upkeep and all that, you know.
So there's a lot of elevations in it. It's not your typical townhouse development, at least in my opinion. But, go ahead.
Is the second floor a balcony? Is that what you're trying to have as a balcony, or is that just more just gives the architectural look?
No, that's a balcony.
So you have a balcony, okay.
Yeah. And then on the first floor, there's a patio.
Okay.
So we have, each unit has its own private balcony and patio.
Okay. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking for a green light to move forward. You know, we went through this process. It was it wasn't positive in terms of going forward, but it was positive in terms of Paul not wasting his time, because you guys made it very clear that that was the wrong place.
Sure.
And the mayor encouraged the two of you to meet and possibly find another place where it was.
And here we are.
And here we are, and, you know, I think as Ross said, we've hit the comprehensive plan. The density is right there. You recognize it as a suitable place for multiple family, for townhouses, medium density, so we'll leave it up to you now to ask any questions you have there.
Sounds good. Thank you. I'll open it up for comments, questions by the council. Alderman Glab?
Yeah, one thing I was going to ask is, where are the visitor parking areas?
They're scattered around.
No.
There's a lot of, I think it said on it, how much visitor parking there is on it, like 20 cars or more.
34 visitor parking spaces.
34.
34.
And does that meet the, what is that, a 1.5?
Well, it's, it is,
There's two, each unit has two in the garage, plus there's 30-some cars for visitors.
Okay.
Is that a two-car garage? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I guess since I've been elected, it's only been without garages, I think, for the most part.
it's right at 1.
It's at 1 right now?
Mm-hmm. That's what like your Fawn Ridge, your apartments
Yeah.
are at right around 1.
Okay. All right. Alderman Glab, you have anything else?
Basically, I look at the density on this, and pretty well fit in, you might say, but I don't know, how does this meet our...
It meets it.
It meets it.
Yeah, it meets our future land use map.
And it might be because of the contour of the property or what, but it just seems awful tight and snug in there. Again, my opinion, you said there's how many visitor parking?
34 visitor parking, 220 car garage spaces.
Yeah.
Is there a way to get more public parking spots out of this? I mean, it's pretty tight as it is, but is there an opportunity to add more spaces with that drawing?
For visitor, you mean?
For visitors?
I'd have to take a look.
Okay.
You will take a look, correct?
Yeah. I will take a look.
All right. Any other questions? Alderman Strack.
I think the project looks great. I think the fact that the elevation slopes to the east down creates a natural retention space. I think the visibility is nice and high on the hill in that location. The adjacent properties are like that, built in the same configuration. The density here in a row house style, we don't have a lot of that in the area now, but I do think that the square footages and the future of what housing looks like, this is a lot of what we need. It's the medium build that we don't have a lot of. It's that footprint that we're missing. We've either got larger space or smaller space, but we don't have this style, and I think it's a nice addition to our community. Thank you.
Alderman Bassey?
As I'm looking at this, it seems that the only exit is from the newly existed Remington onto Crystal Lake Blacktop.
Pardon?
Can you exit the neighborhood any other way than Crystal Lake Blacktop?
Yeah, that's where the entrance is. Eventually, it will go through a piece of property here and then connect to the townhomes that are east of here.
That are already in existence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I guess it's not called Crystal Lake Blacktop. That really shows how long I've lived in McHenry. We called it the Blacktop. I don't have any real issue, but I do think it's too high density. I would like to see it come down a little lower than 110, because that area is quickly becoming very developed, and it's going to put a little extra pressure on Crystal Lake Blacktop until you've got the road that connects to the other townhouses. So I would just like to see less buildings, less units. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Alderwoman Miller, go ahead.
Thank you very much for coming. I too have looked at it, and I like the way it fits on the land. I think it is a needed development. And of course, across the street, we have townhouses as well. So it sort of blends nicely at the back end or the south end of the single family. You would have townhomes to the west, townhomes to the east, and some continuity there. I'm not as concerned about the density because I'm familiar with the row house situation, but I would like to see some additional guest parking there because your driveways are tight. So there wouldn't be any driveway parking. So I would also like to see some more guest parking because I think these townhomes would tend to attract guests. People stopping over for dinner or whatever, and there's really, other than that center space, there's nowhere to park.
Yeah, Tom, you're gonna have to, color the parking so you can see it, because you really can't identify it here.
You're right. Yeah. It will get plan that's a better scale, that's readable, so everybody can see what's going on.
Any other questions, comments by Council Alderman Santee?
Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with the project. I'd like to see a little bit more parking also. I think, I think the people coming into a project like this would have to understand that you have that one exit, and at some point in the future, when development happens, there will be access towards the east, towards that other townhome area. And just looking at that triangle in the middle, I don't know is that showing some slots off of that triangle on the left side? That 12, that number 12? Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of a area that's going to be, but I could see where you could, potentially go on that one side street, possibly on the north side of that triangle, cut into it again and put some more slots there. Centrally located, not a real, long walk, to a unit off into a corner. And that's my thoughts, but I like the concept. Thank you.
Alderman Glenn?
Yeah. I guess one of my concerns is number one, a lot of these are what, three-bedroom units, correct?
Three-bedroom?
Three-bedroom units?
3 or 2. It could be 3-bedroom or 2
Or two bedrooms
bedrooms
and a den.
with an office too, yeah.
So basically, they could be three-bedroom apartments or units.
Townhomes.
And townhomes, right. But the thing is yet we're only offering 2 parking spots. Not going to have, I don't think, a lot of necessarily families moving in these style. I think you're going to find more of the younger generation that are for either first starting out or whatever, but you might wind up, you've got a potential of having how many people living in a 3-bedroom like this, and how many would probably be looking at more than 2 vehicles. Yet you only have the ability to park 2 cars on each except for 30-some-odd visitor parkings out of 110 units. And question is how many, standard average for a three-bedroom, Ross, how many parking spots are usually required for that?
I don't have the ordinance in front of me
Okay.
at this moment.
I thought maybe you might know that off.
Doug, do you know the answer to that? I don't,
Yeah.
it's,
I think we need to look at that. That's a concern of mine. Another concern of mine would also be the roadways in here. How wide are they, and are they going to be able to accommodate, in case of a fire or anything else, emergency vehicles getting in and out?
so we're at a conceptual, plan right now, and I understand those concerns, but they will have to meet the code. So whatever the code is, they will have to meet, and if they're gonna have to adjust this pretty plan, they're gonna have to adjust it, but it will meet the current codes.
It shows public right-of-way, 50-foot, so I believe it was designed with your ordinance in mind.
Right, the Remington was designed to our specs. The other roads will be private.
Yes, Irvington extended.
But they're going to have to be wide enough in order to get emergency vehicles in
Yes,
there
sir, they are.
very easily and safely,
Yes, they are.
in and out, so.
We're not looking for
That's a
departures,
concern.
variations from your ordinance.
Any other questions? Alderman McClatchy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. The only concern would be the entrance, but we're talking about an eastern exit, so once that came in, I'd be okay with that.
Thank you, sir.
Alderman Massey?
First of all, I do want to thank you for bringing to us something that is a purchase versus a rental. So I'm very happy to see that. Thank you. What kind of price point are you looking at?
Well, I forgot to introduce my partner here, he's the money man. I do this and then he takes over once we get going, but probably about 3 or 4.
So right now, this similar product we sold out in Hanover Park. We are selling it at $350. I'm assuming will be around $300K plus, at least.
Did you say Highland Park?
Hanover Park.
Oh, okay. And did you say 350,000?
350.
Okay, thank you.
We sold minimum 350 with the upgrades. We were around 370.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? I remember when that other property, and we had those discussions, Paul, and I appreciate you taking a meeting on with Ross and I after that to have a discussion about finding a piece of property that would better fit or work in the city of McHenry, and I appreciate you coming back. I love the product. I would hope you would make sure that there's enough parking and work with our staff to make sure that the parking is good to go, and make sure that there's enough parking for the public. I mean, you're having a pickleball court and all that, people want to invite friends over, whatever the case may be, that we just make sure for your product and for the city of McHenry that there's enough parking. But ultimately, this is the right use for this piece of property, so I appreciate you coming back, and I'm a full go on this. So, I think you need the direction from council, and I think everyone, for the most part, is in support. I think the parking is definitely the thing that's in discussion. But as far as, does anyone else have any major concerns besides the parking side of it?
What's the setback off of the homes over there in the trails of Winding Creek? I mean, how far off of the property line is this?
Right, but I don't have that in front of me because this is so conceptual, but they will have to meet it. I believe it's RM to to single family. It's not that. It might be 30 feet.
Okay.
Might even be less than that. It might be 15 feet. All things that they will have to abide by, though.
I get it. It's just when you look at the conceptual, it doesn't look like there's room for that. But again, it's just a conceptual.
Right.
But it's worth the question. And
correct. They will definitely have to meet those ordinances.
And of course, Remington then will connect, and eventually we'll get to a couple more properties, and then tie into Crestwood Trails. Correct?
Crestwood Trails and then south to Coonant Drive for a four-legged intersection, yes.
Right, okay.
I do have a question. When you develop these properties, do you develop it all at once? Do you do in stages? What is?
There'll be phasing.
Okay.
Well, I don't know yet what the phasing would be, but, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 3 phases.
Okay.
Now that he mentioned that, so this road won't be extended east until something goes on over there?
That's correct.
So you might want to phase it in relation to that, because the density seems to matter when that road goes in. Right, so connect the phasing to that.
Yeah, other than that, I think you got support by the council and majority
There's not
support.
many towns with you get turned down in the mirror and your development
I get it.
director offer the fig leaf to come in and figure something out, so.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And Paul, thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Have a good night. Sorry it took so long, and I apologize. Ross told you it'd be sooner.
That's like I go to my doctor, and the nurse says, the doctor will be in a minute. Half hour later, the doctor comes in.
Thank you, Paul. All right, next item on the agenda is proposed reforms, city refuse contract, refuse, shit, damn, refuse, contract, leaf collection service. We'll go ahead and turn this over to Director Strange.
Thank you, Mayor. So Mike Flood is in attendance. He's going to, in addition to presenting their proposed reforms to the leaf pickup program, he's also just going to give kind of their year one update. So by now, everybody's aware of the struggles that were ongoing throughout the duration of the leaf pickup program. Flood Brothers is proposing essentially reforming it to a biweekly program. One of the things that some of you may have noticed, it's not really broken down on any sort of logical geographic distribution. If you look at the map, it's broken down based upon sort of their hours that they have into those locations, kind of more of on a data-driven basis, which may just present some perception challenges. But I do believe they have a good plan to communicate this map if it is found acceptable to the City Council, to our public. If it is acceptable, we would go about executing some sort of an addendum to the contract and possibly an update to the ordinance, because this contract is awarded via an ordinance. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Flood.
If you could just hit that center, you probably know it by now.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, good evening. Thank you, Director Strange, for the introduction. Just wanted to, quickly, I know it's a long evening I don't want to keep you much longer, but just kind of highlight some of the things staff and our team has talked about since the last time we all sat here and made it through year one of the leaf collection. We have obviously analyzed and understand the, leaf program here, but, as far as how the collection gone is outside of the leaf collection, our team has, jumped on board. Got a quick handle on the community. Obviously, the transition went a lot easier in this community than maybe some other communities, because we retained the carts that were in place, which made it a simple transition without residents being without containers for waste collection or any delay in that. We've seen some of the new programs quickly get partaken, being that this contract doesn't have yard waste stickers anymore like the previous one did. We've seen an uptick in yard waste at the curb. Just last month, I think, based on the proposal documents, it said about maybe 30 tons a week. We saw, I think it was 70 tons a week just in May of last month. Our commitment is to the community, and we're a family-owned and operated company, and continue to grow our partnership with staff, residents, and the council. We've talked about our biggest challenge being the leaf collection. We doubled the equipment that we had before we started. There wasn't as much data when we got into the process. We struggled. We, obviously came before you and discussed that. We feel, after sitting down with staff, that the program we've presented would, make sure to maintain a high quality of service for the residents and be able to perform that without any,
delays and hiccups that, the residents experienced last year. It is obviously, as you saw in your packet, a program that not many communities still offer, but we're committed to continue to abide, and come through. So we've added new pieces of equipment since the last time we met. Our program here, with the help of Monty, was to put together this map, and it's based on volumes. The volumes are all, kind of, not matching up with the collection days, or they do, and we need to break them up. So we've taken a map based on, this is my cousin Matt here with me, who works with Paco Paleo, our route supervisor for McHenry, and designated the areas that would fit best. It would allow public communication to go out to the entire community, informing them of this change, and then each resident that sits into one of the zones dedicated, the orange or the green, would get a separate notification dedicated just to that zone, highlighting the days of, or the weeks of the collection. So each zone would see 5 passes in a season, starting on the October 2nd week and ending on the final week, which is the first week of December. And then if needed, we would continue to perform services like we did last year if needed. I don't know if there's anything else that, you see needed to fit, or if anybody had any questions.
Anyone have any questions, comments? Alderman Strack?
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening.
You ready?
It's late. Past my bedtime.
It is, mine too. How many pieces of equipment did we add to this mix for this year? I know last year one of the questions that I had for you sitting here in our last meeting was what kind of equipment we were going to be able to put on to try to cover that gap. I understand the change in this schedule might help alleviate some of that, but I still think we were light on equipment. We had an equipment failure. That put us behind.
Yep.
What I'm wondering, and what I don't want to see happen for you or for our residents, is that we have another equipment breakdown and then we haven't added enough equipment to handle it. So
Correct.
I guess I'm just looking for a little more information.
Yeah, so we went into last season with 2 pieces of equipment. During the season, we added that 3rd piece of equipment. We have since, I actually talked to Director Strange this morning and mentioned we added 1, but I just learned we added a 2nd piece. So we will have 5 pieces of equipment, leaf vac collection equipment in the city, starting on the October 2nd week.
So we went from 2 to 5.
Correct.
All right. So those vehicles they'll continue this route. Will you have all 5 of those pieces out at each one of these? Obviously, an equipment breakdown will not let that happen. But your plan is to use all 5 of those pieces of equipment on all of these routes?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's it.
That was easy. Any other comments or questions? No? Oh, Alderman Glad, sorry. I didn't see your little light there.
All right. Number one, I want to bring up the fact that this program's been in effect since, probably 2000? It was either 99 or 2000, somewhere right there. And it was an alternative to burning leaves. And this is what was given to the residents. We didn't, as a council, create that burning ordinance until we had an alternative, which was picking up the leaves every week. So it's been going on now for, 24 to 25 years, something like that, 23 years. And our residents are used to a weekly pickup. Now, I know you had problems, and you know what? You're not the first hauler that had problems the first year. But to rearrange this into every other week, when our residents have been used to and have been paying, and in the contract is as far as weekly pickup, I think that's what I would be only willing to support, because that is what we've told our residents, and that's what you had offered when you had taken you made your proposal and took the contract with us. I think we're heading in the wrong direction by taking and making it an every other week, pickup. I know what it was like in the past when we had a week missed here or a week missed there in certain areas, and residents were quite upset. And those areas started looking a little trashy as far as the winds get, pick up the leaves, they get scattered. We wind up with a lot of those leaves in the street and then eventually in our gutters, which doesn't help Public Works any. No, these leaves come down, they need to get picked up. They can't be, waiting a week and a half to 2 weeks. And, some of our residents, you're talking a Monday pickup, well, starting on a Monday. Well, maybe that resident works the weekend. Maybe he has Monday off or Tuesday off or Wednesday, whatever. He's not going to get those leaves out till the day after you pick them up, and that means they're going to sit there for 2 full weeks. If they sit there, if the winds don't pick up, maybe half of it will be gone and down the street, either to their neighbors or, like I say, into the gutters or whatever. So I just can't see taking and not holding to the contract that we have. And I know you guys, I think, even made the comment when you first took this contract, the fact that the program would phase out probably in, at the end of the 5 years, that it probably wouldn't even be offered again, as far as the leaf pickup. And if that's true, then maybe the city needs to look at what we're going to do down the road. Are we going to invest in our own equipment and keep picking it up? I mean, we promised our residents way back when we took and created the no burning ordinances that this would be a good alternative and that we would be willing to give them that service. And I think we owe our residents that much. Thank you.
Alderman Sandy?
Yeah, we owe our residents to do an efficient job of picking up leaves. I have a little bit of concern with the timetable, but when I look at this map, I guess, Mike, when this was drawn out, was the concept here that you were looking at putting areas of town, trying to block off certain areas of towns to become more efficient, where I'm sure certain days of the week, I can just follow my example of Wednesdays, that you had to pick up my neighborhood and then also the neighborhood on the east side of Green Street. Then you had to go down to the Country Club Estates, and I see where you broke it out into 2 different colors here. And I know my neighborhood is an older neighborhood with mature trees. I know Country Club is an older neighborhood with mature trees. Are you looking at trying to break this up where you can kind of fan it out, where you're not like being crunched certain days of the week because you got a ton of leaves to get to, and then, no offense, you go out to Lexington neighborhood and go out to Liberty Trails? I mean, you've got some foliage there, but very little. So, I can see where those are, drives pretty quick, and you probably don't see all lots with leaves. Help me understand it. Is that the concept here?
It is. So it's a volume based, and kind of knowing that, for instance, in your example, your home or that section might take more attention than a section, on the other side of town or somewhere nearby. So given the week of backing the leaves, you can kind of make sure that those heavy areas are broken, the main section's broken into 2 different weeks, and kind of balance it out.
And Glacier Ridge and Martin Woods are like the 2, I don't know if you know the neighborhoods, but those are 2 of the major ones with leaves, huh? Even with my neighborhood and Country Club Estates? Country Club Estates, I mean, it's everything. There's trees back there.
There are worse for brush pickup. There have been years where during the brush pickup program, just about half of our time has been in those neighborhoods.
Look, it's a concern that we're going every other week here. I understand that. Wind's going to blow some leaves away. that's gonna happen after one day, after I'm done raking, or it's gonna happen after 10 days. You know, it all depends on the weather, going on, you know, that week. And if it's mapped out and it's more of an efficient way to do the leaf collecting, you know, I'm willing to look at this, but I definitely want to review it after a year to see how it went. And I guess the one thing I kind of warn you on, Mike, or just Flood Brothers, is, okay, you got 5 leaf collectors, you know, let's face it, you know, something's going to break down. And that's the one concern I do have, because I just, with all due respect, I just don't want anybody from Flood Brothers coming back to us and saying, well, you know, it was working great, but, you know, a leaf collector broke down. You know, that, to me, that is unacceptable, but I'm willing to look at this concept. I'm willing to take a step forward with it, but to be reviewed, you know, after, you know, at some point, you know, early in 2024, you know, to see how it went. That's all I have. Thank you.
Alderwoman Miller, sorry.
Hi, Mike, how are you?
Good evening.
Good. First of all, I want to thank you and your crews. Obviously, one of the humans on your map that has a lot of mature trees. Last year, with the delayed service, which was understandable, we made alternative resources. I put all my leaves in yard waste cans. At one point, I think I expressed I had 17 yard waste cans out there. Your guys are great. The yard waste guys came through. They were grateful. They understood. It filled your trucks. I'm sorry. But I understand that we need to accommodate the needs of both the residents and your operational needs. I think the key to success in reducing, and it's not reducing the service, but altering the service, is going to be communication.
Correct.
And more so communication on your end than our end, by letting the residents know that if they put leaves in a yard waste can, they will be taken. Because the biggest concern that I've heard when I discuss this with my residents quickly is, oh, I'm going to rake them to the street, I'm going to rake them to the gutter, to our ditch line, and then they're going to blow all over. What was the point of raking them? And of course, my response was, put them in a container, any container, mark it yard waste, put a Y on it, put an X on it, and it's gone the next day or whenever your garbage guy comes out. So I think it's doable with an enormous amount of communication. So whatever your piece is, I hope it includes you have unlimited curbside yard waste. Leaves are yard waste. Don't wait till the last minute to rake your leaves.
I agree, 100%.
Alderwoman Bassi.
I represent the ward that Alderman Santi was talking about, with a lot of matured trees. I did a walk around the ward this weekend and talked to a number of the residents, and I think because they're having flashbacks of last year with the 5-week gap, they are not comfortable going to every other week. You know, I would like to continue it for another year, every week, see how that goes, and then reintroduce the adjustment to the contract after next year.
Thank you. Alderman Cook.
Well, you upgraded your equipment. So instead of 2 pieces, now you got 5. So I'm looking at, I always get it right the second time. So I'm with Alderman Bassi. Keep it as is. Let's see how you do this year, and keep it once a week. Because I live, you know, in Ward 6, and there's a lot of trees in there and all that. And last year, a lot of the neighbors' leaves wound up in my yard. Now, I'm not complaining. I could always blow them to the side. But when they sit there for, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you got a second chance. You know, you increase your equipment, and that's a good plus. So I'd like to keep it at once a week.
Anyone else have any comments, questions? Alderman McClatchy?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Alderman Santee said. Let's try this, review it, and then we can adjust it from there.
He said a lot more than that.
I know.
Anyone have any other questions, comments?
I'm going to speak as a resident, and that's the fact that I'm paying a lot more than I should have to because, and I understand it takes time to dump the dumpsters and everything else. I'm in a family home that has 2 people. A lot of people that there's only 1. There's next to nothing in my cans, but I still take them out there every week. I pay for that service. And within that service, I also pay to have my lease picked up every single week. And I, as a resident, would expect to have my lease picked up every single week. And that's where I stand as a resident, not just as an alderman.
Alderman Strack.
Mike, just wanted to know if you could reiterate for me the tonnage expectation that you were picking up or that you expected to pick up and what the actual was for May of this year.
Well, that was just the yard waste?
Yeah.
At the curb, bagged, canned.
Yeah.
I believe based on the RP, I thought it said 28 tons per week. Does that sound right? That's what I saw. And ours was at 70 tons.
Are you talking about yard waste though?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my question.
Yeah. So we had good data on yard waste. I don't believe we had
any
data on the volumes of leaves that were vacuumed up that was provided by Prairie Land.
Right. So that was where I was leading to, thank you, Troy, is, the fact of the matter is that we can go back to a burning ordinance. We can change this whole program if you want to go back to burning leaves, but if the whole point was not to do that, I would much rather see our residents understand that there won't be a 5-week gap in the pickup, that they'll know what day it's coming in advance, and they can have some time to make that plan, instead of us going back to our residents calling us upset about the fact that the service is not working and we're in a situation where now Flood is behind the 8 ball, they've got equipment breakdowns. And at the end of the day, when Flood was here last time, they said the same thing. A lot of times they're pulling that machine up to the curb to suck leaves off the curb, and it's sticks and all the things that the residents are putting in those piles. So this isn't just Flood Brothers' mechanical breakdown on their fault. It's also our residents putting things in those piles that really shouldn't be there. So not only do I echo Alderwoman Miller's comments about the communication, but our residents need to do a better job at not be putting them in there, because that's what got us into some of this as well. So I think the communication needs to be not only that they can go in a yard waste container and be picked up, but that there can't be anything else in there, because that's what led us here to begin with. I think with the right notice, with the right information, all of us can be prepared that when we're going to put them on the curb, and if they won't, we won't have as many issues as we had last time. Thank you.
Alderman Gleb?
As a resident, I take offense to some of the things that you said, Alderman Strack. I take and I pay for a service. I pay for it to be picked up every single week. I expect it to be picked up every single week. I pay for that service. And I don't purposely put something into my leaves or whatever. I mean, if there's some twigs they get raked in, they get raked in. But, I mean, I'm not putting big branches or anything else in there. The size of those chutes that they use to pick those things up should be more than adequate. The problem is last year, he started out the program with being way undersized in the amount of trucks he had. I mean, granted, I mean, maybe we didn't have all the criteria that you needed of what Prairie Land picked up, but you knew they had 5 trucks. You knew it took them 5 trucks to pick all those leaves up, and that was no secret. And yet you tried to do it with 3 trucks, and you fell behind severely. Now I'm glad to see five trucks, but you know what? coming up with this to make it, I don't know, easier for you or whatever, but there's no reason why with 5 trucks you shouldn't be able to handle the program that you were contracted for. Sorry.
Alderman Miller?
So again, I think it's about communication. I believe that our vendor has put his route engineers in place and have analyzed now a year's worth of data. I mean, that's what we're really talking about, is what was the reality of last year. You've provided a map, you've provided a schedule. I have a lot of old trees in my neighborhood. I know my neighbors aren't out raking every day. So if I give them a schedule, they're going to rake to the schedule. That just makes sense. And we're not taking away the ability to get rid of yard waste. You still have unlimited curbside yard waste. So the only difference between raking it to the curb and waiting for the vacuum is raking it to the curb and putting it in a container, which isn't extraordinarily difficult. So I really support the plan with the right amount of communication.
Mayor?
Alderman Santi?
You know, it's a, you know, if, Mike, if I was, you know, being in your shoes, looking at this concept, I, you know, think about last year, and it's a pretty bold step to come in and show us this map and look at doing this, and, you know, there'll definitely be a, you know, a lot of weight if this program, we do it the way you're requesting it, and you know, the convenience is key. Alderwoman Miller mentioned communication. I get that. Yes, we need to stay in communication, because they're going to remember last year. So, you know, it's a bold step. I think you know, I don't think anybody on this side knows the business of leaf collecting, you know, at a large, you know, large format like what you're doing for the town. So, you know, it is on your shoulders, and it is on our Public Works Director, Streck, to make sure that, you know, this is something that him and staff firmly believe that it should be workable. And, you know, it's bold to come here on this, you know, the next year to look at something like this, because it's, you know, and yeah, there's you got to weigh the good and bad here. And my point is that they're the professionals. We have to keep with our staff, see what they have to say, and, you know, we can, you know, this is year 2. They're going to have to come back to us and well, even before maybe the end of the year, if it really turns out terrible. But they have to face up to the facts if it didn't go well. So my point is just to potentially do a project like this, and then we review it once again after this next autumn period. Thank you.
Alderman Glenn?
We have a contract. Contract says every week, okay? We have a program that has been going on for year after year after year after year, and it has been done for year after year after year after year. Yes, there was a glitch every time we've had a change in a waste hauler. That first year was tough for them, but they all managed, and they all got back to every single week. Now all of a sudden we've got to change for flood? Why? We have a contract. It's supposed to be picked up every week. There's no reason to have to change that. There's no reason for our residents to have to take and readjust because Flood wants to readjust. He has a contract. He should be doing it every single week. He should be able to keep up now, especially with 5 trucks, he should be able to keep up with. And I think it's doing a total disservice to our residents in this city to take and back off and go to it every other week. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel. And that says an alderman.
Alderman, Cook?
You said, the yard waste went from 28 tons to 70 ton? Is that what you kind of sort of said? When did that start? Did that start, look, we had an ice storm. A lot of stuff came down, okay? So is that because of the increase of the yard waste? Or when you talk to yard waste, that's tree limbs, sticks?
Yeah, I'm talking about last month of May, and I'm talking grass clippings, any leaves, any sticks, anything at the curb.
Okay.
That somebody would, clean out.
I thought you had an excess of,
No,
because
our
of the
excess-
ice storm and, that we had over the winter time and everything
Right.
else like that, took down a lot of trees.
When the leaves all fell at once, a little bit of the
Sure.
ice, and then, the issues with things that get put into the piles, and then the other issue is the amount of landscapers that utilize the free service that, we provide to the residents. So the landscapers are pushing all the leaves from a home to the curb, when there might be other residents that are doing it, with a rake on their own. These, residents are paying a landscaper to have it all pushed, in large volumed areas. We're not changing, our goal is to continue to perform the service. Obviously, we're adjusting the schedule, but the volume of collection is maintaining.
If I may clarify as far as the yard waste volumes go, so the original proposal had a historical yard waste volume that was generated. That data was only based upon the bag program. So the Saturday drop-off, there were no volumes that were tracked for that portion of the program. So those volumes got absorbed into the yard waste pickup in addition to any leaves that are thrown into that program. And that wasn't noted in the proposal, but there was no way we could quantify it. So we just had to note that there is an increase, we don't have that volume.
All right, so at this point, I'd like to do a straw poll to see where everyone stands as whether it's every week or every other. So at this point, every week, what council members are in favor of every week?
Every week, I'm sorry.
Raise your hand. Two? All right. Are you every week?
I'm every
Three?
week.
Okay. And, all right, and the rest for every other, right. So every other is four of you? Alderman McClatchy? All right. Every other week.
Well, it would be a contract addendum to come back before council.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's just a discussion item, so. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Next item on the agenda is 8C, amendments to the facade grant program. Director Martin, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Jett. A little less than a year ago, the council adopted a new facade grant program. Since that time, the program's been very successful. There's been 6 grants that have been approved, and staff believes the program should be reviewed and was requested to bring back to the council by the city council for discussion. It's based on the dollar-for-dollar match on lineal footage of frontage on a public right-of-way, courtyard, or the McHenry River Walk. There's the issues, there's a couple issues that I wanted to bring forward for discussion. One is I want to keep the program viable and sustainable. $100,000 was budgeted for this fiscal year, and to date, we have $34,000 left, and I have 2 pending grants that I have not brought to council yet, which would bring the amount down to $6,000 if those grants were approved. I have put in the supplement some suggestions of ways to adjust the program if council is open to any of those ways. The other topic I wanted to bring up were the boundaries of the program. I outlined the boundaries of the program when it was initially instituted, and I'm asking if the council would consider North Richmond Road as part of the boundaries of the program. The reason being some of the shopping centers are older up there. Now, this does not apply to franchises, but say a shopping center wanted to paint their facade, the whole facade of the shopping center, or do something like that, that would be considered, just to incentivize other communities, incentivize shopping centers to do improvements to their facades. So, and there are shopping centers within the areas of the boundaries that this grant currently does apply. So one discussion point is, should this apply to North Richmond Road and that area? And then the second is how do we keep the program viable, not run out of money? I listed some suggestions on reducing the dollar amounts, reducing the areas that the lineal footage applies to, having a specified period that the applications are due, and then just cutting it off at that point. New businesses versus existing businesses, et cetera. So just looking for council's feedback on different suggestions that I pointed out in the supplements and ways we can go to keep, because I get a lot of calls about this program, and I just want to keep it going.
Thank you. Go ahead, Alderman Santee.
Is the area, just make sure I understand this, I know I don't think it's in the packet, but the area that goes west on 120, I don't know, is it out to Ringwood, is that part of the facade program?
Yes.
Okay, that's there already. The Richmond Road, I'm comfortable with doing that. It's, in your statements here earlier in the proposal, you mentioned, the large franchise, large corporations are not involved in this. I mean, not all, but most of them are north on Richmond Road in that corridor, which, okay, so they basically are eliminated. So there are a handful up there. You gave me a couple examples on the phone this afternoon. I appreciate that. I just wanted to understand that a little bit more because, I see the big box and I know they're not, they couldn't be part of this program. And the other thing, in regards to discussing this is, I might be stealing Alderwoman Miller's thunder here, but it's working. I mean, because what he said earlier in regards to, he's got a couple other applications out there. They're going to drop this to 6. So we've had years that no one would touch this. So it's working. And I mean, I'd like to just throw it back at staff to say, hey, let's take a look at possibly, that this is, this is an item in the budget that we may, be able to, see if we can put a few more funds in there. But, help me and correct me if I'm wrong, but, these applications are coming through. We just started this year, and, we're going to be down to under 10,000 of that 100,000 real soon if these other two get passed. That's all I have. Thank you.
Alderman Cook?
What were the examples that you gave Alderman Santee?
On Richmond Road?
Yeah.
Like McHenry Plaza Shopping Center, that's with the extra space storage, where Applebee's is. So if they wanted to paint their entire facade of the inline retail, the center, that entire facade, the painting something that is covered, that would be a something that could be considered. McHenry Commons to the north, right now half of it is vacant. This would be another incentive that they could use to improve the facade on that. If someone wanted to go in there.
These aren't investment firms that you're talking about to help them out, right?
Well,
McHenry Commons, what? Okay.
These are our development companies. These are large companies.
McClatchy, go ahead.
Yeah. The other day, I went to Wolf and Run. I didn't go there. I went by. And it's completely empty. The sign is gone. Everything's gone. The day before, it was totally filled. So they went through there at night. I guess my question is, what do we do in a case like that? Because they got a grant from us.
Well,
They have a loan.
Pardon?
Yes, they have a loan with us, yeah.
Okay. So what do we do about that? I mean, they just poofed.
Yeah, we're going through the process.
Okay.
Collect the money.
Gotcha. Okay.
Alderman Miller?
Thank you. I think the program has been successful, and as we drive through town, we can see the results of the grants. I was concerned when we started out with only 100,000, and what if we got through a month and 100,000 was gone? Well, now we're only a couple months in, and we're down to 34, and you've got 2 more applications, which are probably going to suck up that money, and now we have no money. So I think Doug's, Director Martin's proposals are a good direction, that we're reducing the amount of eligible funds. I don't know, Doug, I think you and I talked about capping funds too, that it was not more than a particular amount at some point. So we might need to think of that as well. The more popular this gets, we might need to reduce the amount of funds eligible for every proposal. And, an owner is going to, or an owner or a tenant is typically going to make that improvement, and they're just looking for us to underwrite some of that cost. So I think it is viable. I think we need to find a way to keep it funded, and just restructuring it might be the way to go.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments by council? Any recommendations, thoughts? Okay, none? Alderman Strack?
I think the, reducing the dollar amounts that Director Martin has in the agreement probably makes sense for us to help stretch it a little longer, stretching those dollars a little more time, just because there's been some pretty big projects done over with this. So I think that's a good way for us to stretch the dollars out a little longer and see how that plays out. I think we run it, we find a number that works, and we run that throughout the year, and when those applications come in and when that money's gone, it's gone, and we do it. But as many of these as we can help, obviously, it just continues to improve the community. But I think lowering the numbers, the number one thing on the list to try to make it stretch a little farther. Thank you.
So maybe what we'll do is come back to council. What I'm hearing is, use the dollar amount maybe we have right now, restructure it with some cap on it, and, still keep it a viable program, and see, moving into next year, for the rest of this year, if they keep coming, we can always come to council with budget amendments or whatever, individual requests. But at least we can redevelop a program to bring back to council for consideration that we can implement from that point forward. And we'll take these comments into consideration and restructure some, bring it back. If it's not what you want, then we can massage it some more. So we just wanted some feedback before we're at 0, and then people are still asking us about it, so.
Maybe we should be looking at, reducing the, percentage that we give in. Instead of $1 per dollar, maybe it's 50 cents per dollar, as well as reducing the amount that we give out. That way we still get the, same amount of work done, but yet only giving out half the amount of money.
Thank you. Alderman Miller?
Doug, how many more conversations besides the 2 applications you already have? How many more conversations have you had about this?
I get calls every now and then. I don't know exactly how many. It comes up a lot. And since I've been here, I did some cursory look at history, and between 2009 and 2022, there was like 8 grants issued. The dollar amounts were a lot lower back then. but since we instituted this program, people are looking for incentives. They're looking for ways to help them improve their properties. So it's on a weekly basis.
There's the message. It's gaining traction and they like it. So it's a reinvestment in our community.
All right. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other staff reports this evening? Anyone? Ross? Oh, hold on. Ross is first.
Mine's short. 2 weeks ago, we did get notified that Taylor Place Apartments at Crystal Lake Road and Mill did get funding, so their anticipated construction start date is spring of 2024.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Bill, go ahead.
This Saturday, we Main Street Food Truck Fest. I believe there was a card on each of your desks, but that's unfortunately, some rain last year, so I'm not exactly sure what it was, but it's certainly all plannings in place to be a nice event. And then before we meet again, believe it or not, will be Fiesta Days. So this year it's a little later. It's July 13th through the 23rd, with our community fireworks on July 16th. That Sunday is a free Sunday. That Sunday night at Peterson Park, we do our fireworks. And then the tiny shops are tentatively opening, hopefully the first weekend in July. Making really good progress here. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that a little luck falls our way, but shaping up so far, so good.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. Any others? Alderman Santee, go ahead.
Director Hobson, please confirm, a constituent asked me about those new piers. The fingers of the piers, the extensions off the main pier are how many feet in length?
24 feet in length.
Those are the new ones.
I confirmed that with the contractor who started installing that pier structure back at Miller Point today. So I brought the steel to the site, but each of those fingers are 24 feet. That's a 4-foot extension from the original design of just the 20 feet.
It should be completed.
I'm hoping 2 weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other staff reports? All right. Any city council comments? See none? Oh, sorry, Alderman Bassey. I didn't see your hand. It's behind his head.
Actually, this is for Director Strange. I was asked to give you some feedback on Dartmoor Street, or Dartmoor Road. The individual that talked to me said, make sure you tell who's ever in charge that the company that they hired to do Dartmoor were professional, they were wonderful to work with, and we sincerely appreciated it. So I know you guys hear a lot of negative. I thought you might like to hear something nice.
All right, any other city council comments? All right. At this time, we're going to go into executive session. I am looking for a motion to enter executive session for 12A, 5 ILCS 122, Section 2, Open Meetings, C5. Looking for a motion in a second. Alderman Santee?
I'll make the motion.
Second, Alderman McClatchy. Please call the roll.
Alderman Santee?
Yes.
Alderman McClatchy?
Yes.
Alderman Glad? Alderwoman Bassey?
Yes.
Alderman Strack?
Yes.
Alderman Cook?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miller?
Yes.
Ross, is this the property acquisition or the?